go doom and like that. I didn't want to interrupt you.
You don't need
be like, oh
no, it's okay.
yeah, but
How dare.
But I am gonna go ahead. So tell me, I know this may be silly, but because I have started recording people that like I meet online, even though like I'm like, this is my friend that I've met online, I still am like, tell me how you want to be introduced, tell me the correct pronunciation for your name, like all of that. That way we can make sure that I don't like do any weird like, like
Okay.
like call you Pinocchio or something.
Like I mean, I would I'm very lenient with that, as
You're like, I mean, you can Pinocchio if you want to. Like,
yeah, call me whatever you want. And you can call me your friend. I mean, I'm one of those people that like I grew up in like an Arab household and everybody was an uncle, So even if you just meet him for the first time, that's an uncle. So that's how I am kind of with the friends. Oh, met me on the internet, we're friends now. I'm a friend.
I love that.
Yeah, but Mennell El Kawaja is the pronunciation of my name.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's I don't like long walks on the beach. I don't. That's a lot of exertion. I love to work out, but a long walk on the beach, I like to sit and ponder. So if we're
I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay. Now I will say, because I'll do a full intro and everything, but for your last name on the screen it shows Tatiana. Like, is that okay? Like for it to show that?
Yeah,
I can try to cut it out. Okay, cool. So
no, Tatiana's fine.
And then I'll let you, basically what I do anytime I'm like recording with somebody that I've met online and everything, I always like introduce them, and I usually just say their first name, and then I give them the opportunity to introduce themselves to, like, you can find me at this is what I like to post, and then we just kind of get into it from there. So
okay.
And I usually do have an icebreaker too. So if you're cool with this, we'll do an icebreaker.
I love an icebreaker. I love to break the ice. I love an ice pick.
Yes.
On the topic of horror, and I'll break the ice with that.
Yay.
Yeah, the ice pick thing is lesbian coded, is very queer coded.
I need to know then, but
what?
I need to know them. Like, I need you to explain to me. But also, like, this is like, we're getting so many good sound bites to do an intro, because I always do like a funny intro before we actually get into the, like, I'll do like a funny snippet from a conversation and then like do the sound, like the actual intro sound. And then I don't know if you've listened to any of it or not, but it's always like something at the beginning. Okay, so you know, it's a very goofy.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and so we've gotten so many good things here.
I'm so excited. No, I'm very pumped, and I will elaborate further on the ice pick being queer coded.
Yay. Okay.
And I premised it with lesbian just because of Sharon Stone. The movie where she's a lesbian and she kills men with an ice pick.
Oh.
This is trivia.
I like that. Okay. I'm sorry. I fell.
No, it's
on my gay lingo.
Hold. You will know it. It was a popular movie, I believe, back in what was it? The 90s. I believe.
I'm literally
Michael Douglas.
Catherine Tremel, is that a person that's in it?
Is she in it? That's a really good question. I'm gonna look. No, I don't see her top billed. No.
Is she just queer coded, or is she actually a lesbian?
No, I think she's actually bisexual in the film, the character. It's do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Basic Instinct.
Oh, okay.
Basic Instinct was like a big thing for me. Mind you, there were so many films I should not have watched at a very, very tender young age. Thanks, Mom. Shout out to my mom. Speaking of horror, I hope she's gonna listen to this.
Good.
I know she is. No, it's okay. Love you, Mom. Love you for sure.
Sequel. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you. I just saw that.
No, you're fine. Oh yeah, the sequel. We do not mention.
They don't have a sequel. I lied. I was wrong. I'm sorry.
There's no sequel to that? Wait, no, there is.
I was joking. Because you said
okay, I was like,
sequel. I was like,
I've got that tism, and I will take everything very literally. I'll be like, oh really? Okay. Absolutely. Wow. And I will respond to everything because in my heart it's real then.
I love that. Oh my gosh. You and I are gonna have so much fun. This is great.
We are. I've been very excited. Yeah.
I also have this really, and I think maybe like a neurodivergent thing too, where whenever I talk about certain things, I will deadpan Like I'll just be like talking and like looking so serious, or like when I'm joking too, I'll like say something and sound so dry, and people are like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh my god!" And I'm like, "No, I'm joking," and they're like, "Oh, ha ha ha." And then when I'm serious about something, I sound like I'm joking or condescending, and I'm like, "I promise, I'm not trying to be like. I
Yep.
just sound that way." Like,
People perceive it one way, and I'm telling you, I'm very dry, very dissociative, as we've already discussed. It's a range, honestly. The mania, I will go boop, 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 like all over the place. And one of my biggest fears in my entire life are roller coasters. So naturally, my emotions, if my ass won't physically get on a roller coaster, my brain said, bet, bitch. This is get ready for this like natural state you're going to be in.
I love that. Well, I will go
Yeah.
ahead and do the intro, but I wanted to let you know too, while we're recording, I'm sure you've done like video calls and stuff like that before, but when we're recording, the little blue box that pops up around like the person's screen when they're talking, that shows where the camera is looking as it's recording. So if it's on me and catching my audio and you need to like sneeze or cough or you want to mute for anything, that's the moment that it will like, it's a good time to do. Or if you want to like grab a drink or something like that, it won't pick you up doing that. So
yeah.
wanted to give you a heads up because some people think they have to like sit very still the whole time and like not move and be like, yeah, and like be poised. And it's like, no, as long as the blue square is not around you, and if like that means it's not looking at you. If there's a blue circle in the top corner, that means that it's picking up your audio. But as long as it doesn't shift to look at you, then you're good. I just saw, oh, it's my dogs. I saw something in the reflection.
A ghost.
You know, like, oh, spooky season.
I bring them with me everywhere I go. They follow me.
I got plenty too. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Yeah. We've got the skeletons in the closet. We've got the ghosts leaning over our shoulder. It's a constant. This is my month. Like, this is it. I love October. I love the spooky aspect.
Me too. All right. I'm going to do our little intro. And hello, Enhanced listeners. Thank you so much for tuning back into another episode of Enhanced Season 2. And today I am joined by, I want to say a friend, and she said a friend, so I'm going to say a friend that I met online. We just vibed really freaking well on TikTok.
Immediately.
Now. So do you want to introduce yourself and kind of like tell people where they can find you, give a little info about you?
Oh yeah, the shadows. Primarily. I wish my internet presence was better, but I'll start. Okay, sorry. My name is Mennell.
Immediate anxiety. Like
yeah, just oh god, I will go off on a tangent like you've never seen, unlike the world has ever seen. My name is Mennell El Kawaja, or as I'm lovingly referred to on here as Mennell Tatiana in the little thing. That's my middle name. And I'm here. You can find me on Instagram, m.ratiana, Ratiana, Ratiana. Mind you, it's a new Instagram account. I had to get rid of my old one. It was getting a little too spammy. So you can find me there or on TikTok at the Baba Dyke.
I love it so much. That is like my favorite thing ever.
It's like, and this is like a thing that's followed me for a while because I was a huge fan of the Babadook, Jennifer Kent. Bless you for that film. And I thought, you know what, like, let's add some razzle dazzle to it. As a long time clinical depression sufferer and someone who has dabbled in psychosis, I can say that, and just being a giant lesbian, I thought just kind of marrying those terms would be fun for me and everyone else. And it's been great. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of similar thing with my name on TikTok. So nobody's ever really asked me about it, but like you said this, and I'm like, I want to comment on that because I had something
loose.
So like, you know, Sammed if you do is like my username on everything. So it's at Sammed if you do, SAMMED if you do. And so I use that for like everywhere. And that's just a very simple story of one of my friends in college was like really good at coming up with fun usernames for people. And I was like, oh, cool. What would be one for me? And she was like, Sammed if you do. And I was like, can I steal that? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, awesome. So I started doing it for everything. But the sandwich, I came up with that one on my own because the sandwich is like what my like display name is on TikTok. Yeah. And for that, it's literally, I was like, what? Because it used to not be that. I think literally on there, it was like Sammed if you do. And then my username was like an old username I used to use for stuff. And I still use it for like legal things. Like, you know, if you have to set up like a bank account, like online or something like that, I use that one instead of Sammed if you do. Like if I need a more professional, quote unquote one.
Yeah.
But, I was sitting there thinking, and I was like, well, what do I want on my TikTok account? Like, I mean, I like Sammed if you do, but like, I feel like that doesn't really represent me, you know? And so,
Yeah.
like, I want to post like witchy things, but also like mental health stuff. And I've struggled a lot with binge eating disorder. And so I was like, the sandwich, like a sandwich. No,
Rock on. I love it. I love it, honestly.
yeah, so people love that, and I know that like I've had several people comment and be like, "That's why I followed you when I saw
Yep.
the sandwich." But yeah, and I think that was a similar thing for you. One of your videos popped up on my For You page one time, and it was just so funny, and I can't even remember what the first one was because I went to your profile and just like did a deep dive. But it's
I
just
just go ahead. Sorry.
you just have such a good like internet personality. You know what I'm saying? Like you have such a like it's just I'm like I'm friends with this person. But literally I just sat there and just like kept scrolling. You probably saw like 15 likes from me because I just kept
I'll
scrolling
take
and I was
it.
like, I follow this person. Like, yeah. And that was like the Baba Dyke. That is so clever. And like I would randomly after that just keep like going and looking at your profile because I was like, she's gonna blow up. Like she is going like one day I'm gonna hop on here and she's gonna have like 20,000 followers and like
I mean, here's the messed up part about it though. I mean, I used to think because I would watch TikToks like long time watcher, and I was a fresh kind of engager. Like I would go and make my own videos. I started with like making haunted doll. I think that was like the thing is I rated haunted dolls that I found on OfferUp. Um, that was like the first few things. I might have deleted them. I don't know why I did that. I had like a manic episode where I just deleted a bunch of shit, but
it happens.
as you do, yeah, as you do, you just start trying to rebrand yourself and then you wonder why, like, because that was extremely on brand for me. But um, what was I gonna say? As far as like with the TikTok, it's the video that I just did, not that it was like maybe a little less than a month ago, that for some reason went viral. Like the dumbest one I could have possibly
I think on
had.
was it the Titanic one?
No,
You know,
no, I wish. I mean,
I
that one was on its way, but someone reported me for bullying, and I was like, I mean, they're already dead. Like, I don't think
like what do you want from me? They
there
did
are
that
no threats.
themselves. Like,
I didn't. Yeah, that problem handled itself. That was not my doing.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to take credit for that. But if I could, I would definitely put it on my resume. But it was that's so dark-sided.
It's okay. It's okay. I like it. I'm here for it.
This it's gonna get very explicit. No, but it's the one where I was just in Michigan and I had been writing all night and I woke up the next morning feeling kind of like shit as I do. And I was just scrolling TikTok mindlessly and there was a video of a man doing a massage and it looked, you know, I could use a massage, but I also could use how explicit can I be on this podcast?
Go
Like
for it. Say you're completely.
I
Yeah.
I could have used a good fuck is basically where I was at. And he was like pulling her hair and I was fiending and
Mm-hmm.
I stitched the stupid video and I said something stupid like, that looks really good. God, I need to get fucked. And then it cut off.
Yeah.
So you didn't really hear. And I was like, what a stupid one-off TikTok. And then suddenly I'm getting like blown up. And I was like, really, really, of all the TikToks in all the world,
Yeah.
this is the one? Like, this is the one? Great, great. Perfect.
TikTok is on some shit though, for real. Like it literally like it does that all the time. Like, but I know the exact TikTok you were talking about because when I saw that,
Yeah.
I was like, again, when are you gonna blow? Like you're literally going to blow up at some point. Like it's literally like it's gonna happen.
It's a fun prospect. Like my manager, actually my previous acting manager, his like big thing. And the reason I think I started becoming more active on my social media was because he was like, you should probably engage with that more because as part of your generation, I feel like it's kind of a prerequisite to building a platform and becoming like at least the status of an actor that I would want to become, which mind you is far beneath fame. I do not aspire to fame. I think talking about, if we're going to talk about horror, that does seem quite horrific to me. People having that much access to anybody.
Yeah.
But he was very adamant about me building a presence online. And so that's kind of it. But to his great chagrin, if that did happen, like that would be great. Like
Yeah.
for my career, I suppose. I've been very reclusive as of late because I've been very much working on my scripts, mainly the one about Lilith that I might have mentioned to you. It's a horror script. It's Look, I just want to say this. Okay, so if we're talking, not to, again, a tangent, I'm so sorry, but
It's okay.
if we're talking about horror, some people would say Eli Roth or anything, but I just want to mention that Eli Roth he could not hold a candle to the inner workings of the mind of a young, like teenage closeted lesbian in the Midwest. No. Like, so for me, this has been a long time coming of writing consistently horror.
Yeah.
What people would view as horror, what I would perceive more for myself as reality, which I think those things are intrinsic. Like they're, yeah, unfortunately tied.
Well,
maybe that's bleak, but
I like it though. I mean, so go ahead and introduce our topic today. So today we are going to be talking about like writing, but specifically in like the world of horror, and just talking about like our experience with that, because we're both writers, but like I know that we're both also kind of like in a weird space where we're like in the film industry, but like pauses because of the strikes, and we've been bouncing around, and like you have a lot of cool experience that I'm really excited to hear about. But before we jump into it, I do want to start off with a little bit of an icebreaker. And
ready.
it's horror themed, so I'm excited to ask you. So now this can go for like, this is very up to your interpretation. Like you're like allowed to expand as far as you want to with your answer. There are not really any guidelines, but I'm just gonna say the genre.
Pandora's box right there.
Yes. So, like, I remember your TikTok for that too, where you were like, "Why does it sound so fun? Why does it sound
hot.
so?"
I'll do it, and I'll do it with pleasure, and no one can stop me. That's all I'm saying.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, so referring to horror as a genre, this can be in a book, in a movie, a TV show, and this can even be just like fantasy shows with horror like elements to it, or thrillers and things like that.
Okay.
Any monster or big bad villain in any horror genre, movie, book, whatever story, if you could pick one to be for all of eternity in that universe, outside of that universe, it does not matter, which one would it be and why?
Okay. So there are some answers that might get me in trouble. And I'll maybe veer away from those because I feel like some people wouldn't understand. Hell, I barely understand. Okay. So I've always been long time fan of cryptids or supernatural kind of monsters in a sense. And I think there's a line from Dracula, like Bram Stoker's, where he says, "I've crossed oceans of time to find you." And it melts me. It hits me in such a way that I would want to be Dracula, as sorrowful and bleak as that might seem. That to me is like the pinnacle of who I would choose to be. I think a very interesting take on the story would be a female homosexual Dracula. Anybody listening out there, you want to make it happen?
Can we make that happen? We can do that.
We could do that. We could do that. I would be elated.
Copyright symbol.
That is, yeah. No, I'm gonna do it. This is the symbol. Like you can't beat this. This is yeah.
Officially copyright.
But yeah. That is official. It is official. I did the thing. Okay.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that would be my choice. If we went for seconds, again, the Wolfman, but that's just because I feel like, again, another very queer coded, specifically, I think, and I've, observed a lot of people within the trans community talking about it. Werewolfism and the Wolfman was something that a lot of trans youth, like before perhaps they were aware of, or before they were able to transition, that was like a thing. I watched a video of a young man who said that he used to perform spells to become a werewolf. For me, I was like, heard, understood.
Word, yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
Can you
it's like, yeah, right? Like to be something else, to be something that seemingly has great power. And even though, it's portrayed as this horrific thing, I think for the queer community, it was a sense of self and power, but primarily Dracula. Dracula, and that could go for the Bram Stoker or even Bela Lugosi because of his facial expressions alone.
Nice. I like that. That's a good answer. I
Yeah.
was honestly not expecting that, but also like I don't know what I was expecting, so yeah. I
I
don't
like
know.
to keep them on their toes. I like to surprise people.
Definitely. I don't know what I would choose. See, immediately my brain is like The Grudge, but I know that that's very like
Oh shit.
yeah, like I don't know why, but like immediately I'm like I'd want to like crawl around all
Crawl
creepy,
through the laptop.
yeah, yeah, or like just appear in a bed and like pull someone to the underworld, like I don't like wherever it is she takes them, but
I
like
love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially like once you get like far enough in that series, like you realize like the whole family it's like the curse is on the whole family. So like there's a point, spoiler
Mhm.
alert, like in the third movie, whenever the sister ends up like being killed and like she is like stabbed through the neck, her like grudge form,
Mhm.
quote unquote, like when she comes back, like she literally is still just like it's like blood just pouring down her neck as she's making the sound and
Yes.
her choking, and I'm like there's just something so spooky about, what I'm saying, like, but also like
Oh
so
yeah, it's like a fond childhood memory for me.
yeah, I know, honestly.
It really is like,
Oh my
and I
gosh,
mean that
yeah,
in a myriad of ways.
definitely. I'm glad you said that because like like I feel the same way, but I'm also like, am I really messed up in the head? Like, is there something really wrong? Like, so like,
You
but
gotta
yeah,
immerse yourself in the madness. Like I feel like there's comfort there.
we're all a little mad here, but yeah, so,
Mhm. Yeah, it's true.
yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, there was just something definitely poetic about the whole family having like a grudge to hold, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's what the whole movie like series is about. But it was just like really
Yeah.
cool that, like, you're wrongfully killed or like, murdered or something like that. And so like you come back ready to, what I'm saying, like to seek vengeance. I don't
Yeah.
know, it's just very poetic. Also it's kind of
Well, it's
beautiful.
like an energy. No, and I agree because it's like an energy signature. I've always believed that if some heinous crime transpires in a space, it opens up this kind of void and it leaves an imprint. And I think that that's, a lot of times where we get ghosts and I believe ghosts in my terms would be energy signatures.
Hmm.
As I said, I'll reiterate that. But um, so, and I think when you were talking about the grudge and the fact that it's kind of entangled within the entire family. I mean, it's just to me that was elevated horror before we even started coining these films as elevated horror. It's like
Yeah.
these stories come from real life experiences, maybe not as extravagant or supernatural, but like
Mhm.
look at Ari Aster. You're pulling from. I mean, I hope he's okay because odds are he's not.
Yeah. On my last project that I worked on, before the strikes happened and everything, I was talking with my boss on that project, and he was the department head of the accounting department because I was the first assistant accountant on that one. And I mentioned something about how because Everything Everywhere All at Once is my current like obsession. Like it's my favorite movie of all time. I'm like, and I have like a top 5 like that I always keep. But before that, Midsummer was like my top, and then like close second was the movie Mother. Have you ever seen that?
With Jennifer Lawrence.
Hmm.
That movie was disturbing and I loved it. And I
Yeah.
know Darren Aronofsky has been one of my obsessions since Black Swan. I was just talking to someone about this the other day, but it started a very deep and unhealthy obsession with his work. And I think that that movie in particular, I saw it in theaters and I left the theater with that pit in my
Yeah.
stomach, no pun
Yep.
intended considering the content of it, but
Yeah. But yeah, it was like definitely one of those. I have this very weird rule of thumb where it's like you can tell if I really love a movie by one, if I immediately want to watch it again, or two, if I sit back and don't watch it or talk about it for like years. And Mother was one of those for me. Literally, like I watched it and I was like, I just took it in, and I
yeah.
went and bought the movie so I could watch it whenever I want to, but I did not watch it again for like 2.5 years later. And then watched it with another
Wow.
friend, and I was just quiet the entire time watching it. And that's another thing too. If I'm very quiet during a movie and I'm just like watching it, like I'm really enjoying it, and I did not talk about it again. And like that's how you know if I really like a movie or not.
You had to kind of assess it, and I feel like you're decompressing from it, which I think
Yeah.
makes the movie. I think any movie that moves you so
Hmm.
deeply is brilliant. That's
Yeah.
the purpose of any film.
Yeah.
And I'd argue that is like the pinnacle of filmmaking. It's the
Mhm.
artistry of it, is to move the person witnessing it in such a way.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, when you have to decompress after that, and then you want to, and I like that you said you waited a couple years, because to me, you're watching it with a fresh pair of eyes
Mhm.
almost. Like, not to say I don't have any like short-term memory loss or anything like that, but it's like I do that with films sometimes. Like I'll watch it a couple years later on purpose to have that fresh kind of viewpoint
Yeah,
and take.
definitely.
And especially, you know what else makes that movie really good is how it is both poignant for the time that it came out, but has withstood
Mhm.
and has almost a new meaning now,
Yeah.
considering the climate we're in, considering like the political climate and
Yeah.
being a woman now, and
Yeah.
both, you know, all the laws around your body. It's those types of films. Again, I kind of it's comparable to me, the discomfort I felt watching that with Rosemary's Baby. And usually I don't. Rosemary's Baby is a film that I wouldn't typically bring up because of the director, and I won't say his name, but that movie, another one that I watched again, probably when I should not have, at a very young age. Again, mother, thank you for. There's so many reasons I am the way I am today, and it was
Thanks for the tasteful
such a
trauma.
healthy, yeah, such a healthy combination of the behaviors of both my parents. And you know, we'll get into that at some point if
Yeah.
it calls for it. I'm sure it will. But I just feel like when it comes to childbirth is its own horror to me. I'm very much like, to me, I would rather be sent to Guantanamo Bay. And I also say that lightly, as dark as that sounds.
Mhm.
I can't fathom being forced to give birth, and then being gaslit afterwards.
Yeah.
It's just not. And like and mother, and I don't know, and have you seen Rosemary's Baby? I know it's just one of those.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I Googled it, like, right when you said it, I was like adding this to my list, you know, like.
It is a stress-inducing film. I think it makes it, and again, I watched this long before I realized the director and his sins, we'll
Mhm.
say. He's a demon, but
And not in a fun way.
no, not in the cool way, like
Uh,
me. Like
like me,
he,
the Baba Dyke.
yeah, me, the Baba Dyke. Yes, all my minions. But no, it actually, it becomes so much more horrifying because of when you realize the director's behavior and who he is.
Mm.
And that movie, again, very, very stressful. Mother was extremely stressful to
Mhm.
me. And that is where I find horror. That's will get me every fucking time.
Yeah.
Is just the immediate, like, no one's listening to me. Like, I'm screaming in a crowded room and nobody can hear me, or they do not care to hear me.
Yeah.
And that to me is a nightmare. And I feel like that is a lifestyle, or like a reality, I mean, for women,
Yeah.
for most women, or female presenting people, or
Yeah.
uterus having people.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, and I'd argue everyone has had those moments, but women, I feel like, in regards to like horror,
Yeah.
it's a daily occurrence, and we see that now with what's going on in the world. But
Yeah. I think that a reason why people probably like you and I, or even like you said, like women, and like how you find these people that identify so much with like horror as a genre, is that, and this is gonna sound dramatic and like sound kind of snowflakey, but you know what, like, fuck that
I'm
shit.
dramatic, you're good.
And so,
Yeah.
but I think it's because when we watch a horror movie, we are getting to see something that we identify with on the inside. Like, we are getting to see a physical representation of something, like an inner turmoil that we've been feeling, you know?
Yeah.
And I have something I want to bounce into, but I want to jump back to the about what I was saying about, because you said something about Ari Aster that I thought was really, like, I had a thought that was really cool, because it was whenever I was talking to my boss on my most recent project, and he asked me, he was like, what are your favorite movies? And I was like, well, Everything Everywhere All at Once has just taken like the first place. I was like, but for a while, Midsummer and then right below that, Mother was like my two top favorite movies. And he was like, why does everyone love Ari Aster so much? Like, why does everyone obsess with him? And I was like, I don't think it's that people love him per se. I think it's that he has this like unhingedness within him that he is allowing to flow out like most directors attempt to do and most writers attempt to do. But whenever it flows out, he surrounds himself by a team that can say, okay, cool, we'll pick up that energy and run with it. Like if you look all throughout like Hereditary, that movie like was the set deck, the editing, the props for it, like all the way down to where you can tell that the like script writer, I mean not script writer, script supervisor was like doing their job the entire time. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
Like
yeah.
where it's like Ari Aster just like, I don't know why I'm saying his name like that. Ari Aster, there we go. But like
it sounded normal to me. No complaints here. I
gay panic, gay
yeah,
anxiety.
I don't think he'd hold it over you.
Yay. But yeah, so I think it's just that he like he's not afraid of letting out that unhinged energy, but then he is surrounded by people that can take that and like work with it, you know? And I think that's what I really liked in Midsummer, because people were like, or he was just like, well, the writing's really like, if you like, he was like, why do you like it so much? I was like, I like the psychological play. I like the psychological warfare where you don't know like if something's really happening or not, and you also, it's like you don't know what dimension it's happening in or what realm it's happening in. Like you're constantly questioning the reality that this character is living in. And he was like,
horrific in its own right. Yeah,
exactly. And so he was like, well, I have far more like movies that I could recommend to you that are like much older and better done. And I'm like, okay, I hear you, but like in those movies, like I'm sure they're great, especially the classics. I mean, you can't beat the classics, but you can beat the classics, you know, like you
can with the evolution of time and with the generation after generation and what we see as scary now. You know, a lot of people that are like, let's say boomers, they maybe don't relate, or they might, but they hide that. There's like that aspect of swallow it, you know, don't acknowledge it. And we see that with people older than us. And I feel like, you know, and I think with Ari Aster, for me, the first word that popped up when you were just talking about what he does for people is resonance. There's a kind of like resonance about his work that speaks to us, and we resonate with it on a certain level, because I mean, it's sad to recognize this and even reconcile with this, but a lot of people in our generation, our parents did not do an ideal job. And I'd argue that most parents don't. You're always going to fuck up, but then some people really fuck up.
Yeah.
Knowingly. And I think he's one of those unfortunate people that had to potentially deal with that. I don't know for certain. I'll be honest, I've never heard him talk about it personally. But that's how I would perceive his work. And, you know, as a writer of horror, you put a lot of yourself and experiences you've had into your work. And and that can manifest as, again, you said you're questioning if it's really happening. And I mean, for me, the script that I've been working on with Lilith, there's so many aspects that are, and the ones that I follow are Robert Eggers, Ari Aster, Karen Kusama, Jennifer Kent, oh God, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. I'm having a brain freeze, but
ooh, okay. I just found the trailer for it. It's in black and white.
Oh, it's incredible. Yes, and it's the director. Yeah, it's seriously so good. Anna Lily Amirpour, I believe. She's the director, and she's Persian, or Iranian.
That's
I
awesome.
believe.
Sorry, I'm looking all this stuff.
No, please. I had to look it up too, because her name escaped me, which makes me feel extremely guilty. But that's going to happen pretty frequently throughout this chat, because that's how my brain. I have like a million things running through my mind at once, unfortunately, to my great dismay. And in that, I forget a lot of the most important things.
Yeah.
Like, so bear with me here. But yes. I have a cocktail of mental illnesses that would make my father regret his choices. Um,
Oh gosh,
no,
trauma. Like,
yeah, the trauma. You need like a sound bite that just goes trauma like every time.
we have one from the
Um,
first episode that was Gabby being like, I mean, obviously, like, because I forgot what I said, it was talking about like why we wanted to start the podcast because we talk a lot about like mental health and like just things that people are passionate about. And like, we like to have like real broad discussions, but hone it back to people's personal experience,
yeah,
And I was like, yeah, the reasoning behind us like doing the podcast is blah, blah. And she was like, well, obviously it's trauma. And like I say that so
Auntie.
much now, and I'm like, obviously it's trauma. Like I
I'm gonna
say that
start saying that too now.
good, do it.
Yeah, obviously. I feel like, yeah, that's one of those, that's just a phrase that will be thrown around here quite frequently because, it's a house. And my partner and I, we live out in the desert together. And then during the pandemic, we were kind of sequestered into this house together for the right reasons. We want to protect people and ourselves. But um, it felt like we were in a ward. Like I was like, oh, it's Girl Interrupted every fucking day. Like I expect to find chickens under the bed. Like, oh,
Yes.
obviously it's trauma. Like every day I was like, we're just really awakening to things that perhaps we had rose-colored goggles on previously, like before we had to sit with each other as long as we did. It's a lot, but it's fun for us. We have fun.
Yeah. There was something that you said that whenever I was like, I want to route back to the Ari Aster thing, but now I
Yeah.
can't think of what it was. I was like, I want to come back to that because you just said something really cool. But before we dive into it, I wanted to go back, but I forget what it was.
Resonance.
It was like well before. It was like when we went down the trail of yeah, I'm not sure, but it's okay if it's important.
It'll come back. It'll come back.
Yeah.
I feel like we might end up going full circle here because if we're talking about the horror genre, I feel like the most relative horror films today are made by or relatable, I should say. Ari Aster. Who is another? What did I just watch the other day? And I don't know if I can even, because of the strike, I don't know if I can even bring up current films.
I mean, I've just heard about like not working on them and stuff like that. Like I know people are still going to the movies and things like that because
Absolutely, yeah.
like
There hasn't been a complete kibosh of that. But I know just I won't say the title.
Okay.
But I recently watched a film, just came out, and it was alien related.
Okay.
And I'm a big I love alien topic. In fact, there is a TikTok that I made about about being a young girl who I got one booklet about aliens when I was a kid that somebody should not have given me because I hyperfixate and I spiraled on that. And when I immerse myself enough, I become that. Like that is, and it works for acting and it works for writing, but for personal relationships, it does not. No. Obviously it's trauma. But no, and I'm obsessed with aliens, and I made everybody think in my like 10 or not, I was 10 years old, so I was in 4th grade. I'm telling my age right now, but 4th grade, and I told everyone that the aliens were going to come and only take a certain group of people because the world was going to come to an end. I had an obsession, like a sick obsession with the end of days. And I was in a Lutheran school I had no consent in this. Like I was put there because of my stepfather. Obviously it's trauma. But anyway, so I told you this is going to come up a lot, but
I love it.
I basically told everyone that I needed to put stamps on their hands. And I started like a semi-cult. And this was at the Lutheran school.
4th graders.
I was not right for that school. I was not a good fit because I asked too many questions and they do not like that.
Oh gosh.
And I got into a lot of trouble because one of the kids ratted me out.
Oh my gosh. It's giving Wednesday Addams. Like
I used to get that all the time. I was Wednesday Addams this. I got that up, and I'll tell you what, I got that up until I was about 25. Like, girl, we're on 32 now, and I feel like there's still people out there that's like, you give the Wednesday Addams vibe. I'm like, yeah, well,
I would say I can see like Addams Family vibes, but I wouldn't say like Wednesday Addams vibes because like
she's a different breed, and also she's like what 10, 12.
And in the series, the Netflix one, I think she was like a teenager in it.
Oh yeah, I love Jenna Ortega. I love her.
Too.
What a doll.
Honestly.
Yeah, she's great and a phenomenal actress, and I
Mhm.
only wish for her to continue working as much as she has because she should, because
Yeah,
she blows me away.
yeah.
Um,
She's gorgeous too. Just a
oh my gosh, no, and yes, and she's just so, and she's captivating. Like there's
Mhm.
something very captivating about her work, and I've seen a few of her little films, like her what was the one about the school shooting? I forgot the name of it, but and again, maybe I shouldn't mention it because of the strike, but I implore you to check it out. It's under, you could just probably look her up on IMDb and it'll be under there, and look up the synopsis of it. But oh my God, I was sobbing by the end of that film. She's so good. Ideally, anything I write in the future, like I always think of like actors that I would like to have in my work. Um, and she's definitely on the roster
Mhm.
for some future project down the line, and I'm sure she'll still be working because she is truly phenomenal. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, oh, so sorry. Again, a tangent. We were talking about
It's okay.
the Alien movie on Hulu.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking
My
of,
bad. I'm the
no,
one who got
don't.
it.
It's not. Don't you dare say you're bad. This is on me. I will do this for the entire duration of this recording. I will just bing, 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 bing to like
Hey,
10 different things at once.
it's all right. Obviously, it's trauma. So
Obviously, it's trauma. Remember the horror. Um, so anyway, the movie, it's there is no talking in it. Except for an utterance of a couple words, and I won't say what they are because I feel like it is a spoiler.
uh-huh.
But it was horrific. It changed me as a person. And I'll, you know what, for the sake of it, I'll send you a message of the title.
Please. Yeah, I was about to say, I need to know. Like,
I will. I'll send you a message. But I was on the edge of my goddamn seat. And the portrayal of these said aliens, these beings, was like, it was so good. It was so good. The brain that got pumped out of, I'm sure is a big anime fanatic, which I also am. I love anime, a certain style, but
yeah.
I feel like this gentleman that wrote this film loves anime because of the portrayal of these creatures, these aliens, these beings. It was jarring to say the least. But that would be on my roster of films for like the Halloween season. Um, Caitlin Dever is in it. So if you want to Google, it's like a recent.
Mm-hmm.
She was in Booksmart, I believe.
I'm Googling her.
Hmm.
Oh, that's a fun way to spell the last name Deaver.
Yeah, she's
Ooh,
also a phenomenal actress.
I think is there something about a TV in it? Like a
TV.
TV that goes kind of staticky?
No, I don't recall that.
Oh, okay, never
Yeah,
mind.
no,
This is different than.
I don't know. I mean,
Oh
I
no,
haven't
maybe
seen.
this is it. Okay, it is. It's just maybe there's not a huge focus on it.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that at all, but I mean, I was so captivated by other, like there were so, oh my gosh. I mean, watch it because
Yeah.
it's wild.
Where did you watch it at?
Hulu.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm definitely gonna watch it then. That's so cool. Yeah,
It's
I'm a
it
big Alien person too, and actually, the Alien series is like my favorite of all time. Like that and the Planet of the Apes
Wait,
series.
can you see in the back? Can you see? Hold on, sorry, I feel like this is gonna
For the people listening, I will describe what is happening.
there is
Oh my god, yeah! Oh, you have like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's so cool. It's like a
big time.
poster. Is it a
Yeah.
poster? Yeah,
Yeah, it's a poster.
the
It's like
alien
a
head.
yeah, big
I
fan.
met
Sigourney Weaver, big fan.
I got to meet one of the guys that built. Oh wait, no, that's incorrect. That's not a correct statement. Let me rephrase that. I met a guy that he is a huge like props master that's like really well known. He's been like on a ton of movies, and I'm blanking on his name right now, sadly, because we both were guest speakers at this like film workshop thing that was happening, and so
Oh,
I got to
cool.
meet him and listen to him speak. But I mean, he's like a big deal. Like he's been he's been like the props master and props maker for like a lot of big movies.
That's
But
so cool.
how he got started in his career is that it was like years ago. I mean, probably like in the 90s. There was a competition in Atlanta that was like a prop making competition, and he
Yeah.
remade the alien, if I'm not mistaken, like the whole body. But like what he did is he like made it as a prosthetic to where somebody could put it on. and he
No.
yeah, and he like
Oh,
won like thousands of dollars, and like it was like a competition where you won like thousands of dollars, and then like a studio would pick up a project for you or something like that. I forget what it, but that started his career, and he like did phenomenal. I got to see some like really cool stuff that he had done, and
oh,
it was really cool. But yeah,
that's amazing. I wish my autism would grant me the ability to do something like that. I wish I had that kind. Like
you're
I
like, I
do.
have that what is it that genre of autism, like why can't I
Yeah,
have
like that
that?
genre that I want to be like a savant of some kind and I want it to be making prosthetics and maybe okay, but maybe a combination. So my gay audacity is telling me that maybe I could.
Yeah, I
My
believe you could.
delusions, my
Yeah.
delusions of
Well,
grandeur.
one of my very best friends, I'll say their name because I think they're fine with it. Their name is Haley, and
Okay.
they like have not went like they have a high school diploma, which is good. I mean, you know, like there's the like this is not a shut on people who don't have a higher education. That's not what this is at all.
Oh
Not
yeah, I'm very about
yeah,
all that. Like
yeah. I'm very much like college is a scam, even though I have a
mhm,
degree. I'm like college is a scam. That's all it is. But anyways, but
yeah.
they are like one of the most brilliant people I know, and they will randomly out of nowhere just pick up a new skill, but just because they're interested in it, become so good at it in like less than a month, and then just get bored with it and not do it anymore. But they got really into like hand making and handcrafting like costumes and
Oh,
like props and stuff like that there for a little bit, and
yeah.
literally made their Capricorn. And so I
I was
had
gonna say, what's their sign? What's their
Mhm.
sign? Okay,
And so
got it.
they had a astrology themed birthday party one year. And so they came in this like really big, like lesbian style, oversized like suit, but then handmade these horns that were like Capricorn
Whoa.
horns. And like came
Okay.
up, yeah. And like at this point in time, because they also anybody that knows them knows that they're like they are like a shapeshifter when it comes to their hair. Like they can do any hairstyle whatsoever. But at this point in time, they had like their natural hair, which is like really, really dark black. And so they did it kind of styled like yours, but it was like very flayed, like frayed out, you know what I'm saying? And
Okay.
like it just came with like the big horns, the flared out hair. And I was like,
I love that.
if I was into female presenting people,
Yeah, yeah.
we would be together right now. Like, you know, like,
Mhm. She got an Instagram.
yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yeah. I'm my marriage is open. So
Oh, okay.
we have fun here. It was like I said, girl interrupted.
Yes, love it.
Nothing's secure, nothing's
Chickens under the
permanent here.
bed,
Yes.
Capricorn horns growing out of places, you know.
Oh my God. That horned suit thing, I would love to see a photo of that because I am both fascinated and aroused. Like I
Ah,
love that imagery. I love that. Scare roused is another thing that I use very commonly in my life is being scare roused.
I I have this funny thing that I say that I have not said it in a while, but I think you'll
Ready.
get it. So as a gay man, I like, you know, I can still tell when a lady is hot. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like,
Duh. Yeah. Same with
oh,
men for me. Like,
yeah. And it's like I can tell how hot a lady is by how much I want them to step on my throat. And like if I want the kind of heel I want them to wear. Like if
mhm.
I think that they're like hot, I'm like, take a big old blocky heel, shove it right here on my Adam's apple. I
I
don't
love that.
but if you're like smoking like you are like a she devil hot, you know what I'm saying? Like, ooh,
Yeah.
she a bad little bitch, she a rebel, you know what I'm saying? If you're
Yeah. Mm-hmm,
like,
mm-hmm.
I want you
God
to take
bless.
a needle fine pointed heel and just into my life. Thank you. That's what I
Give
want.
me I want a fourth hole or whatever.
Yes.
Well,
Right
actually, no,
here.
because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a lot of holes on the body, and I'm not willing
Add
to count
one
them.
going in and one going out, please. Thank you.
Yeah, give me an extra hole. I have, yes, and I do understand that. I'm glad you said you're gonna get this because I do. I have very disturbing kinks and
Oh,
yeah, like and maybe disturbing is not being fair to myself. For me, they're lovely.
but
To
obviously
the average. Yeah, like it's obviously trauma. No, of course, of course. And yeah, I feel like here's the thing. Same also. Like, I mean, there are so many women. I just want to just premise this with same. But
yes.
it within my writing in the script I'm writing, there are so many moments where I'm like, maybe we're getting a little too vulnerable because there's no way around people not being like, okay, so Mennell wrote this. There's no way they can separate
Mm-hmm.
the art from the artist in that way.
Yeah.
Where they're gonna be like, so Manel's into some fucking weird shit. And there are people out there that I've not been vulnerable with to that degree or told them these things, relayed this information. And I feel like when I won't say if because this film will get made. When this film comes out, people that know me will be like, good fucking Lord. Like, what was, oh, and maybe that's my hope, honestly. Let them,
Yeah.
I want to move people in a way, even if it's to like discomfort, because I think
Yeah.
that that's an important aspect of filmmaking, is to make people uncomfortable. You're going to start questioning things. You're going to, you know, lead the revolutionary charge on certain things. And yeah, I mean, and to round it about, I would there are so many women that I see on a day-to-day basis where I'm like, please crush me, run me over with your Subaru, run me over with your RAV4.
Yes. With your
I don't know.
or your
Yeah.
Vespa, you know? Like,
Yeah, yes, every day. I actually, yeah, I just missed Folsom Street Fair that happened in, I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's like it's been in the gay community, queer community for a long time up in the Bay Area in San Francisco. It's a BDSM kind of sanctioned, like, yeah, they kind of shut down an entire street and it is just debauched, but amazing, amazing. And I was supposed to go this year, but
what am I doing? Why am I in Alabama?
I mean, they don't have anything similar out there. There's got to be something. There's got to be.
I mean, we got gay pride parades. That's about it.
It's time to start. It's time to start. Yeah.
Well, actually, I have a friend that I'm not going to gender them or name them or anything like that, just because I don't know. I don't want anybody to be able to triangulate them, but they are a big fan of the BDSM scene, apparently in Birmingham, which is only like not even an hour from where I live, and I work there very often. But apparently, there are some like BDSM clubs and bars there, and I was like,
they're everywhere.
Try it out. Like, you know,
some of them are underground. Yeah, some of them are just very underground. And I mean, people want to say that they don't exist in certain parts of this country, but they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And I love that. Like, I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
I think it coincides with horror as well, like the bondage. And it's, I mean, obviously within a healthy way.
Yeah.
Like consent, in an intelligent consent is, and it is, to me, like, the lack of it is horrific. Like, it's horror, again, to tie it in with just being a woman or a female presenting person. And horror, the lack of consent, the disregard of consent, more oftentimes is reality horror.
Yeah. On that note, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your script too, because I know that was something that you were excited to talk about. I'm excited to hear about it too, especially with everything we've set up to this point. So whatever you're comfortable sharing. Of
course, yeah, I'll keep it, to a certain amount of discretion, because, like I said, I have this terrible way of getting overly excited, overzealous, and I give away a little too much, and then, bada bing, bada boom. Several months go by and something pops up in the industry that is very similar to what I've been working on. And it is a nightmare beyond compare. Heartbreaking. So I do my best now to shut the fuck up.
I've been doing the same thing, though. I get it. Yeah.
Right. And it's dark and it can ruin your whole day. So I will say what I can, but I'm currently working on a script about Lilith. It's evolved into this. It has been something I've been working on for the past 8 years. And I know some people, they can crank out a script. And there are other things where I've script doctored. I've worked in the industry. I've done that. And I've made little shorts and I've taken part in the writing of certain features, but never on my own. Never something that's been like no pun intended, but my child. Speaking of horror. And this is that. Like, I started it as one thing and it's evolved into this. And for a long time, I could not put the pieces together. I could not culminate it into the story that I really wanted to tell. And I also believe that because of the duration of time it's taken me, it was all done for a reason. I'm not one of those people that thinks everything happens for a reason. But this for me did, because I needed to go through more. I needed to deal with more anguish, unfortunately. I needed to maybe feel a little bit more pain in my life before I could really embark on this journey of writing this story. And that is because, I mean, if we think about the concept, if we think about Lilith, the whole thing I'm doing is like so many people have written about Lilith, and we've gotten reiterations of her story since Sumerian time. Like, ancient Sumerians were the first to apparently depict her. And then the Talmud, like it was in Hebrew, and that was a lot later. She's very steeped into Middle Eastern ancient like lore and religion, and some texts that we'll never get to see ever.
Mhm.
Nobody will, because they destroyed them. Thank you, you puritanical fucks. Like you, you Romans. But I think that for me, as someone who also ghostwrites, to kind of maintain some anonymity in my life,
Mhm.
I tried to tie that into creating a story about Lilith that is both respectful and understanding of the whole idea of so many people have told her story. What if she got her chance,
Mhm.
to really do it, but in the most like horrendous way possible? And considering all of the lore around her, like with men and her being the first woman,
Mhm.
supposedly, allegedly, and why she was removed, or why she removed herself from
Mhm.
the Garden of Eden and saw fit to start her own existence and her own movement, we'll call it. And I think, I, again, as someone who primarily likes to keep, and even as an actor, this is strange, but like I like to keep myself kind of in the shadows. I want, I've the amount of things that I've published under pseudonyms or pen names, like different names that no one will ever know, because the beauty of it is just putting it out there and
Mhm.
not having my name attached to it. So someday, to me, someone will find it, read it, fall in love with it, and project this whole story onto the person that might have written it. And
Mhm.
that to me is just the furtherment, if that's a word, of art.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my mode. And it took me a long time to rationalize that with myself and reconcile with that. Again, especially as wanting to be an actor. Mind you, I primarily stick to indie horror. Um,
Mhm.
but that is why. I like to have those secrets, the mystery of it all.
Yeah.
Um, so in telling the story, I mean, it does kind of surround a character who is a ghostwriter.
Mhm.
And I'm trying, mind you, I'm still trying to kind of work it through my head so I don't give away anything really,
Yeah.
outside of just kind of the spine, like the skeletal frame of some parts. But
Yeah.
um, I would also like to put on the table, because trauma, obviously it's trauma, but the divine sense of justice that a lot of people with autism, or who are on the autistic or autism spectrum,
Mhm.
that we might feel this like immense, I mean, you have this like hyper empathy, which
Mhm.
I'm sure, you've either read about or have experienced, or you have talked to friends about. It's something that I've dealt with since I was a little girl. And within that realm, I wanted to create a character that has that, like it's very visceral, this feeling of like justice. When things are wrong, they must be met with justice. And I'm, man, I don't want to get myself in trouble. I am very in my mind, violence is the answer. Does that make sense? Like I
Mhm.
think, when it gets to a head and you're just kind of like, now fucking what? Like
Mhm.
in today's day and age, when I see certain things, I'm like, oh my God, what would stop this? I don't want to say it out loud, but what would end, these bigots doing this and this, that, and the other thing is like, we can get rid of them. And that's just me. And I know that a lot of people, that's met with a lot of disdain and like,
Mhm.
ugh, like, yeah. And I understand that. Not everybody has that kind of like weird, like need for
Yeah.
how I view like justice. And instead of like acting on that, and I think a lot of other horror writers will understand this, you just write about it and make it into something, like create an art, take your broken heart. Carrie Fisher said, take your broken heart and turn it into art. And that is kind of how I exist. So
Yeah.
I'll take it, and instead of acting on it, I will create it in a way
Yeah.
that is fantastical, and it will be kind of pushed out there.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's the best way I can vocalize what I'm feeling, and a theme within the story
Yeah.
is divine justice. And I think that is also such a big thing with Lilith, is like she felt her moon, her light was dimmed, and she wanted to be equal. And in not being granted that, she saw fit to, as I said, create her own path.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of female presenting people, uterus having people, really resonate with that. And it's why I call to Lilith constantly. Hecate,
I love
Lilith. It. Yes. Actually, I have a tattoo. I mean, you're not gonna be able to see this on the, this is my partner actually drew it one day. I was like, I want 3 faces and I want them to be emoting like 3 different things. And it was because of my knowledge of Hecate and Lilith and like the multiple faces kind of aspect of their lore, of their story, of the myth of them. And that is something that has always touched me, as these multiple different beings within one. And because I've always felt that way. And mind you, I'll bring it up, but I have BPD. I have borderline personality disorder. So for me, yeah, like having that kind of a common term within the BPD community is when you split. And so that was for me with the significance of this tattoo and like my worship of those goddesses, those beings, Lilith, the so-called demon, you know, like the mother of witches, the mother of all women.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, to not give away too much. That's kind of where I'm at. We're nearing, I've finished, I think we're on draft 3. I don't know how many more there are going to be. I'm very indecisive when it comes to everything. But my scripts, I will read them again and again and again and again, and then find new things I want to add. And then I will send to an editor. The editor will give it back to me with these notes, and I'll take the notes and then I'll go even further. I'll be like, and then what if, you know, like they always open up this new portal to kind of continue the story. And I'm, you know, it's, when we were talking about Ari Aster and the idea of you don't know if it's reality or not, that's another big theme within the imagery of what I'm writing.
Yeah.
You don't know if this is really happening. In my mind, the main character, she believes it is. She believes, like, in her mind, this is her perception is her reality. Like, and that goes for everybody in our actual reality. Like, my perception is different from yours, and our realities are vastly different, you know?
Yeah.
And that could be for a myriad of different aspects of life.
Yeah.
And I that's kind of where I'm at with the story, is that she's undergoing these insane kind of fantastical things. And throughout the film, throughout the film, there are moments where you're like, this isn't real. And then there are other moments where you're like, oh my God, no, this is really happening. And I keep that toggled. There's a toggle switch there.
Yeah.
And then you get to the end and you're like, oh, fuck. Like, and it kind of leaves you guessing. You're like, was it even real? I feel crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good. You should feel crazy. Welcome to my brain. I feel crazy every day.
Yeah. I have, you know, there are 2 things that really popped in my head throughout. Well, there are a lot of things that popped in my head, but there are 2 things I want to like jump to. But I want to say, like, this sounds so interesting. I love Lilith and I love Hecate, and I love, like, there's just so many like things that you said that I'm like, this is me too, and I like it. So I'm rooting for this and I want this to happen. So have you ever heard or like studied or read into color theory?
Color theory, like in regards to within filmmaking, like,
or just in general? I mean, like, color theory is like a standalone thing where it's like an art and a science. Like, it's there's a lot that goes into it. The only reason it's fresh on my brain, one, I'm a huge color theory nerd. I love it. I had to study it in school, and I did my big like senior final project and thesis on it, and I won like an award for like the research I did on it, because like it's just so interesting. Like, it's so interesting. But
I love
basically,
that.
and I got to teach a course to my union yesterday. I think I was telling you about that earlier. And I brought up color theory because like there's a big play in how you professionally present yourself all around color. And so
really quick, can I ask if the color theory pertains to, you know, how some people will paint the door of their house a certain way? Like if you have a red, okay. I just wanted to ask, because I want to clarify if that's something that could be correlative to this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so color theory, simply put, is the study of color and how we perceive it. But there is a lot, like, as we've continued to like study color over the centuries, there's a lot that goes into it that we're like, whoa, okay, like this is really like, it's an art form, but it's also a science. So like, to give an example, like in our society, we look at colors between warm and cool tones, or like hot and cold tones. And we had that on a scale of red to blue, but that really excludes a lot of the colors that we know, you know? And so like, there's also studies that show that, what is it, purple and yellow, or no, purple and green are neither hot nor cold, that because of their like how they cancel out certain things. And so there's like a really weird like spectrum of like how we view color, even though not every color falls into that spectrum. Well, on like in Australia, the people that are indigenous to Australia, their whole system was based on wet to dry, and it was like blues and greens to browns. And so the reason why was because they would read basically the environment to know what sort of like weather they were going to have, what kind of season they were going to have, and their whole society became based around understanding how colors communicate with us between like what's happening in the environment. And so we kind of have done the same thing with like hot to cold. But there's like this whole study that shows like different colors have physical effects on the brain too, or physical effects on the body and psychological effects on the brain. And so like Baker Miller pink, have you ever heard of Baker Miller pink?
Baker Miller
Pink.
Pink. No, I have not.
So it's also known as drunk tank pink. And it's because there were studies in the 70s that showed that this specific shade of pink made people physically weaker and made people like calmer after being exposed to it for 15 to 30 minutes. So the scientist that was behind, so the scientist that was behind like realizing this revolutionized people using this in drunk tanks and in holding cells and things like that, psychiatric units. But then later studies all the way throughout the 80s started showing the longer people were exposed to it, it had the opposite effect. So people would then start becoming really aggressive and even violent and like paranoid after being exposed to Baker Miller pink. And so the whole point, so the whole point.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to write that down. Baker Miller
pink.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also known like it's very similar to Barbie pink. So like that's where and so it's very like a lot of people will say it's the same as Barbie pink and also Pepto-Bismol pink. So, but it's like and so I completely
my two moods.
You're like Barbie pink and Pepto-Bismol, like
and indigestion, absolutely. As a Virgo, it is a common thing. In fact, I'm surprised the mic hasn't been picking. I'm a Virgo. Yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't been picking up my stomach grumbling. Maybe it has.
Your tummy rumbles? I haven't heard them. So, but yeah.
I had a La Croix and look what it did. But
La Croix, I love La Croix. But I'm a Pisces, so we're sister signs.
We are. That's probably why we get along. That is probably why we are friendies, because that every single time I meet a Pisces, there's always a connection. One of my best friends in college back in Chicago she's a Pisces, and we were like inseparable.
Yes. Gabby, who is also the other like main host of the podcast, she's also and she grew up in a Arabic family. So I thought that was really interesting.
Really? I watched the podcast episode. I think she was in.
Yeah, she did. Whenever it was probably her and Tyler, because they talked a lot about culture and conformity in that episode.
Yes.
So, but where did my brain go? I was
color theory. You said that you thought about it. You were talking about the effects of. Well, you ended on the effects of Baker Miller pink. Yeah,
but what was it? There was something you said throughout your script where it was like, where you were talking about like. It was specifically around the reality, like not knowing if something was really happening or not. It made me think about
perception, like the perception.
That was it, about how there's actually like a lot of subliminal messaging behind like even color and like different things like that. And like you can use color tones throughout film, throughout different projects,
absolutely.
Like that, to like make certain feelings come up and people don't know where they're coming from. You can also do it with sound too. Like you can use like really low rumbles that people don't really notice, but it like brings out like a weird feeling. And like I noticed that, and we were talking about Hereditary earlier. So I don't know if I'm sure you saw, like I talk about it some on TikTok. I'm hard of hearing. And so one thing that a lot of people don't know about people that are hard of hearing is that we experience the thing called like synesthesia, and not everybody does, but like it just depends. But like a lot of like the most common one for deaf people is that they'll see color rather than or they'll see sound as color rather than hear it because they can't hear. And so my hearing has gotten a lot better as I've gotten older. So my synesthesia has like really went down just because a lot of the problems I was having like repaired itself. But I still experience synesthesia, but rather than seeing sound, whenever I was really stressed and I was younger, I would see it, but it would never look like color. It would just like wiggles in the air. Like it would just literally look like the air was vibrating. But
that's fascinating. I've always wondered. I had a friend who
Really?
experience that. And I was quite honestly a little jealous, like not to be crude, but I mean, there was
Yeah.
something so beautiful about perceiving sound that
Hmm.
way that I could never, I mean, at this stage, I still haven't been able to experience that. And I wish I could just look into it just once, or I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't want to, because I don't, obviously people that are hard of hearing, maybe they don't want to be, and I don't want to make it, I don't want to be
Yeah.
the
No.
ass. It's like, well, what I want to, because I hate when
Yeah.
people try to like romanticize mental illness and then on top of that certain disabilities. I'm like, no, because not everybody is super
Yeah.
jazzed about it. So I respectfully,
Yeah. I
I've
mean,
always been very fascinated.
when I learned to accept it, it was like a cool thing, but I think it's also because I still have a privilege where I do have hearing, like it's just my hearing is not great. Now, like I said, it's a lot better. The last time I was tested, so I don't know if you realize how young I am, but like I'm 26. And so like a lot of people always like,
Yes, I thought, because I
okay,
think we talked about it. We might have actually talked because I said,
probably.
we're
Yeah, because a
messaging
lot
about
of
it.
people, I always like sway away from, especially people in the industry. I always like try not to share my age because people like they automatically give me respect because I'm like I have my own company. I'm really good at what I do. Like I'm really well known in my area. But the moment that I say how old I am, they're like, "You're how old?" And I'm like, "Okay, look now. Like you ain't gotta act all like
Yeah.
that," because then they immediately start talking to me like I'm a baby because
Yeah.
like you know how people in the industry are. And so
Exactly. I mean, I usually don't. I try not to, but I mean, sometimes you just can't. You can't help it.
Yeah. And so the last time that I had my hearing tested, I think I was 24 and my hearing was at the level of a 38-year-old, which is like the best that it had been in a long time. So
Wow.
yeah, because it was like in the up, like
Congrats
it's,
on that.
thank
Congrats
you.
on
Yeah.
that.
It's like as it's gotten closer to my age as I've gotten older. So it's
Yeah.
just repairing itself just from where I'm like taking care of
Like
myself.
the
But I've been having
Benjamin Button effect.
I know. But anyway, so
Reverse.
but yeah, so synesthesia. So but mine was I would see it sometimes, but it was more so I'd feel it. I'll feel certain pitches and certain sounds in certain parts of my body. And so especially like around my face, like I pick up sound really if somebody has a very like low monotone voice, like I will feel it in my face. And it's even gotten to the
Wow.
point now where like I have learned how to like just to ignore it and kind of like tune out the like feeling, if that makes sense. But then if I'm around someone or around a sound that I can't hear at all and I feel the sensation, I'm like, what is this? What's happening? But
That's so interesting.
yeah. And so whenever I was watching Hereditary, I kept feeling it like in my chest and in my stomach. I kept feeling like I was shaking. And I was like, what is this? Like during certain parts. And I finally was like, is that and I asked my friend, I was like, do you hear that? And they were like, no, what is it? And I was like, I don't know. I can't hear it. I just feel it. And they were like, what?
Wow.
And I had to like pause and explain. But then when I hit play, I started feeling it again. And I was like, and I looked and at my speakers, I could see the wiggles a little bit. And I was like, I was like, you can't hear that sound. And they were like, no. And I like told them, I was like, pay attention, like really listen to like the background of the like movie and see if you can hear something. And they were like, oh my God, there's
Wow.
rumbling in the background. There's like there's a really low pitch roar in the background. And then we kept listening and we even started hearing like for spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't seen the movie, camels are really like a prevalent thing. If you do the research about payment, it's a relevant thing, but like they don't really cover that at any point. But payment is known to be riding a camel, and the movie is about kind of like about a demon named Payman. But you could hear like hooves clacking on the floor at different points through the rumbling, and a lot of people didn't realize that. But I like could feel this like sound, and like because we were listening so much closer, my friend was like, "Oh my God, did you hear that?" And I was like, no. And they were like, hooves clacking, listen. And we went back and played it again. And like, you could hear like, it was a part where they were getting ready to open the like door to come into the house. And you could hear like, like on the roof.
See, I love the layers like that. And I love that speaking of perception, like your perception is your reality. Like you perceived that film in a way that many people probably could never,
Yeah.
like that is so brilliant. Like that is so it's brilliant for a myriad of reasons, like the addition of it in the film, and then the fact that you as an audience member could like view it in such a way and like feel it and quite literally be physically moved by it.
Like I
It's
physically
so
felt
genius.
it. Maybe it's unsettling, like because that was something too, is that like a lot of my synesthesia, like I know that there's a lot of people that like because their body does that full flip whenever they have like a sensory loss, they will like all of a sudden see, color for sound, and that's what they get used to it. For me, mine was very like trigger based. Like if I got really stressed out or anxious, that's when it would start happening, and certain sounds would trigger it. So There were certain
Wow.
people that like when they pronounce S a certain way, and it's a very minute thing that most people don't notice. But if when some people say S, and it depends on how their teeth are set up, I know that sounds really weird, but some
No,
people
it's true.
have a very like strange whistle sound that comes out right here when they say
Technically, our bodies are all instruments. We're literally wind
yeah.
instruments. So
And
yeah.
so there were certain people, and my ex used to do this, and he started doing it to where he was kind of an asshole. But like we've moved on. We were both terrible with each other, so not going to shit on him. But this was just one shitty thing that he would
Obviously, it's trauma.
do.
I
Yeah,
mean,
obviously it's trauma. But he would say like S's that way on purpose because I would feel it right here, and it would like tickle my lip, and I could feel this like wiggly feeling, and it drove me insane. But like he would do it
it's
sometimes
like
on
heightened
purpose.
empathy.
Yeah, yeah, got it.
That
Yeah,
reminds
actually.
me of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like that's correlative to what I was talking about with my script. That's really interesting. I'm
yeah.
absorbing this like a sponge. I'll have
Cool.
you
But
know.
yeah, that's what it made me think of was like this perception, but also this like thing where it's like with color theory, like the a Baker Miller pink. Not everyone has that crazy aggressive reaction to it. It is a common thing, but some people only feel that continue to feel that calmness from it, you know? So it's like it's
Yeah.
so weird that it's like if you were in a room that was Baker Miller pink and everybody was reacting to it differently, and like 1/4 of the population in that room all of a sudden started acting really aggressively and violent, like everyone's gonna be like, what's wrong with you? What's going on? But have no idea that there's like something in the environment that is a stimuli. You know what I'm saying? Like that
Yeah,
it's
no,
uh, like yeah, it was
well,
just very interesting.
yeah, there are a lot of filmmakers that's why when you said color theory, my immediate thought was filmmaking, because there are a lot of people that have spoken openly about indulging that
Hmm.
theory within their work
Yeah.
and subliminally. And I'm a big, so for me, I'm a big classical classically composed
Hmm.
music fan, like
Love
operatic symphonies,
Yo-Yo
all
Ma.
that jazz. Oh yeah, I mean, just and I think when I was a kid, I would line up all of my little stuffed animals or whatever I had at my disposal, and I would force my family to come in and watch me conduct the
That's
little
so
animals.
cute. I love
Yeah,
that.
and I would stand up with a pencil, and I really believed I was going to be like a composer or some kind of conductor. In fact, it's really funny because that movie Tar with Kate Blanchett.
Hmm.
Have you seen that yet?
Mm-mm.
I highly recommend. It's a problematic lesbian movie. It's a problematic
Ooh.
lesbian movie that we all needed because lesbians can be very much problematic as well.
So can gay men.
I
It's look at that.
right, like I support women's rights, but I also support their wrongs. Perhaps not this one because she's very dark-sided, but she has a daughter in it who it was watching it was very it was a thing for me because when they showed her daughter who also did that, she was conducting and like doing that, it like touched me because I hadn't
Yeah.
even thought about that in so long, like it was so brilliant for me to have that be in a film in a way because I was like, wow, I resonate with that child. That is something that's bringing me all the way back to my childhood. Um, but anyway, so for me, classical music, that's all I listen to when I'm writing. Um, in the style of, I guess, the most bass line is Lacrimosa.
Yeah.
That's
Okay. Yeah.
like, yeah, that's like my baseline. And then we kind of move on from there. Anything with strings and
Mhm.
horror uses that a lot. Like
Yes.
the pull of like a string on a violin where it's like the pull and then the lengthening of it, this like the
Mhm.
kind of high pitched ferocity
Yeah.
of a violin string.
You know,
Very keen on that.
gosh, that is so crazy that you're like literally. I just had an experience yesterday that you know how like, and you probably get this because like there are certain and just being somebody because like I don't know if you saw this on TikTok or not, but like I'm in a little bit of an autism journey where like I know I have ADHD, but my doctor felt like I might have autism, so I've been seeing like a psychiatrist and I'm going to go through testing sometime soon. But because there were certain things that I was doing that he just like was like that doesn't sound like ADHD, that sounds like autism. He's like it's definitely a spectrum, and he was like,
Mhm.
and he's like there's nothing wrong with it. Like he was very like kind about it. Like first
The
doctor,
journey of discovering that is
yeah,
everything. I've been there. It's
yeah,
the
exactly, and I'm sure
pipeline.
that and I'm sure that there are things that you've experienced that like it's hard for you to explain it to other people. And that's how like being hard of hearing has been for me. And I wonder if maybe they go hand in hand for me, if maybe like my like because I haven't been hard of hearing my whole life. I lost like almost all of my hearing whenever I was 16 because of a really bad infection that I had. And then I slowly but surely have gained it back, but it's still like this, I don't know, culturally has affected me, if that makes sense. Like there are things that I still do that is very like deaf coded and very hard of hearing coded, even though I have a lot of my hearing back, if that makes sense. And so,
well, I mean, you could tie that, just a quick little side note here with autism. There's also, it is linked to hypermobility, which is a physical aspect of being on the spectrum. So, I mean, there's a probability that this could be interlinked in some way, in some facet. So
I definitely,
that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. That makes me, I was like, I always wanted to say that out loud, but I was like, I'm not sure if I like if that's how it works. But
we're not doctors. Like, I'm not a doctor. I can't, mind you, I'm very
what?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm also a doctor. Could you imagine? I've been
oh my gosh.
spilling
like, wow,
the torture.
You got money. Like,
oh no, I'm just a penniless writer. I'm just a writer that makes very minimal money. I got a delivery driving shift at like 6 tonight. Like that's where we're at financially. God, it's the fun part of the strike, and everything going on is just anyway. But I'm not a doctor, but I feel like I'm very open to anything is possible, like I'm very spiritually open to that, energetically open to that, if that makes sense.
But so there was an experience I had yesterday, and there are certain things that like, as someone who like, I'm in this weird middle ground where like, it's really hard for me to find other like I say other deaf people just for the sake of what I'm about to say. So like other deaf people, but even harder for me to find just other hard of hearing people that experience it the same way that I do. Because like most of the people that I meet that are also hard of hearing, they have lost their hearing gradually as they've gotten older. I went from hearing very well to where like I could pick up on like a pin dropping, always had sensitive hearing to immediately losing all of my hearing. Then
it was acute.
It was very, very quick. And then it was very like, because I was always so attuned to like the littlest sounds, then that immediately flipped over to synesthesia, where my body started making up for the lack of sound. And so like, and so people like my mom, like always like, she kind of picks on me because I sleep with 2 fans on in my room, but I'm still like a very light sleeper. And she was like, how do you like, what wakes you up? And I was like, the vibrations. And she was like, what? And I was like, my sister, and I had to explain this to my sister because she did not understand like why I was waking up to this and like why it would frustrate me so badly. But she would have a friend that would come over. It was a guy, and like they would just be in her room talking, and her room is like not close to mine at all, but it's like, here's the wall, here's my room, here's her room, and you have to walk all the way around to get to it. And I never hear anything in her room. But this guy had a very specific pitch of voice where when he would talk, it would like vibrate through my wall and I would feel it in my face. And I could not sleep because I would literally feel what he was saying. I couldn't hear it, but I would feel the vibrations. And like, I had to explain to her, like, it wakes me up. And she's like, you are hard of hearing. Like, how do you hear this? And I was like, I feel it. Like, I can't hear it. I feel it. Like, I feel
you might be spiritually attuned to the vibrations all around. Like, I'm such a, within my practice, within the craft, or even just meditation, I'm very big on chanting. And that is specifically because of the vibration of your voice and how to match the frequencies and the surrounding vibration of the cars going by, or the birds landing on trees, and the bees and the bugs, and even like the pitter patter of like lizards' little feet on the ground nearby. And I feel like you're telling me this, and I'm wondering, like, the fine line between, yes, like, it is a physical thing that happened due to like cause and effect. So you went hard of hearing. You said it was very acute. You said it was kind of an immediate thing. And then your body, to compensate for that, started to, you said, pick up the vibrations in a way. And I'm also wondering, like, if there's, and I know we're both kind of woo-woo in a sense, so I can say this, it also makes me feel like you are tapping into something spiritually. I don't know, like some kind of higher elevated kind of presence
Yeah.
around you. And
You know, there's so many things that my brain just keeps it's doing that ADHD thing where I'm like, there's so many cool things I could say here. And
I know, yeah.
I want to make sure I stay on the music thing that you just said, but then like before this, and then I have something I want to add to that too.
Please,
But
yeah.
I was outside yesterday working, just doing yard work and stuff like that, and I had to move a like cinder block to like kind of scoot it over, and when I did, it hit this metal pole, and it made this sound that I could hear it, but like it gave me a bodily sensation that was like very familiar that I did not like, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't like that." And I immediately was like trying to locate where I had heard that before. And so a lot of times what I do is I'll close my eyes and focus on the sensation. And it's like I have this little like search bar at the top of my head that will like show me all the times that this happened. And there was this
Nice. It's like Minority Report.
kind of, yeah. So like
Yeah.
the,
You're just doing the like with the finger things, and you're moving things around in your brain. Okay,
oh, I do that. Like literally, I have what is it called, the 3D brain, where it's like that. They found out that people with dyslexia have, where it's like you can take something in your head and flip it all the way around and look at it from all points of view and stuff like that, and you can
actually visualize it.
And yeah, and so so my brain, like it's very like computer search bar-y kind of like, you know, where it's like if I'm looking for something, I can literally like I see the words typing in my head, and then it's like files will pop up and show me all the things that I'm like looking for. And so in that moment, like every single moment that I had heard someone hit a like off key on a guitar, or that they like something hit the strings all at once and they rubbed up against the head of the neck of the guitar, like that weird like noise that it makes. That is the same exact sound that this like cinder block rubbing against this metal pole that's hollow just made. And it was like weird. It made me feel unsettled. And that's what it made me think of too, where you were talking about like the subliminal messaging and like how certain things can like impact you in certain ways. Like I picked up on that because I'm hard of hearing, but other people probably would have just heard that and never connected it, you know?
And I just want to say that really quick, the idea of you having like file folders and you can just like, it has me thinking, I'm like, I envy that, because for me, when I go into like the deep confines of my mind, it's just a damp cave that's really dark, and all the papers with all the information are just splattered against the walls, and they're somewhat wet, so they're kind of like just either sticking or just
there
like a light breeze comes in, and suddenly they're being whipped around the fucking cave, and I just have to stand there like an asshole, like in the money thing, you know, when they have the cash grab. Yeah, that's me with my ideas, and like I'm just like, when will I finally fucking grab one? Like, so that's how I envision that. But I like that you were able to kind of conflate the two sounds, like again, marry them and figure out what is to bring it back. That's really fascinating. I mean, sound and color theory, when you said that, I'm also within my writing, I add notes within, and you know, it depends on the DP, but I feel like when you work with somebody that's willing to work with you, you can come up with like beautiful imagery of what you want to see on screen. And for me, a lot of the imagery is from classic paintings, like things, and it's all based around color and like the certain hints of color within certain paintings. Like I'm a huge fan of, and I know the gay community is gonna, you know, I'm sure resonate with this, the Fallen Angel painting by Alexander Cabanal.
I'm gonna look it up.
Give it a look. You've probably seen it. It's like something that changed me as a young child when I first saw it, witnessed it, I'll say. It changed me, and actually one of the portions in my script, is there's imagery of that in which, so fallen angel, the idea of a fallen angel, as a daughter who had a very aggressive father, and I would consider myself cast down by him. It was something that really hit a nerve with me. The idea of being cast away from your sanctuary, your safety, through the pride and bitterness and ignorance of your father, which I think is why I, you know, connect so much with Lucifer, is this idea that, you know, and the look, that painting, if you look in his eyes, like being, to me, it was betrayal.
Yeah.
But it was a form of unbridled rage that said, you're betraying me, but you will regret this.
Yeah.
Like you will.
Lots of heartbreak.
It did. Yes. Heart. Exactly. And I think that for me, it's another big theme within my script is like, you know, hell hath no fury like a daughter cast down from her father. Like it's not, especially the eldest daughter.
You and I need to have like an off the books or like off the record chat sometime too about our writing, because
Absolutely.
a book that I have been working on since I was in like junior high school, and I finally come to a place in my life where I'm like, I found the storyline, I found what I like, I found what I'm going with, like I've got it, you know. And I have like a
I
group
love
of
that
writers
feeling.
that are like, yeah, and I have a group of writers that are like supporting me too and like helping me kind of keep like it together and everything. Shout out to the Fiction Forge. Go follow them on TikTok at the Fiction Forge. But they
Fiction
like
Fort.
yeah, the Fiction Forge. They I'll send it to you. It's a writers group
Please
that I'm
do.
a part of, and they are we're publishing a it's an indie publishing company, and I don't want to give too much away just because like I like it's their thing, but I mean I can tell you about it like one-on-one. But
Yeah.
we have a page on Enhance's website for it pretty soon too, so if you guys go to keep that to check out and everything. But the we're publishing a literary journal or literary magazine, and it's
Ooh.
and so but there it's an indie publishing company, and it's the first like presentation that they'll be doing to like kind of present like a published work so that people who want to get their like work published but don't know what channels to go through and don't want to have to do the whole like traditional like stuck up way of like going through all the channels of like finding your publishing, like it's like the very like
It's
exclusive way.
strenuous.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very tedious.
very inaccessible, like it's not so
No.
they have basically they've just formed this group of people that will help new writers like get what it is that they want done, help coach them along the way, give them feedback, like and help them really feel like the project is moving along. And so
Yeah.
I asked them to help me because I'm already part of the group, but I was like, can you help me with my book too? And they were like, yeah. So we have finally gotten it set out and everything, but there are so many things that you're talking about that's just like I'm like are like I think your script and my book exist in the same universe
They
because
likely do. I mean,
yeah,
I
because
feel as though that is the case.
yeah, because Lilith is an important role. And well, I say important role. She is a prominent figure in my novel, but she is like not directly correlated with
Yeah.
the book because the only place that she would have fit in was in a villain spot. And I just did not want her to be the villain because it just didn't feel right. Like I was like,
No.
that doesn't seem. And I love Lilith. Like IRL, love Lilith, and I
Yeah.
think that she's like a feminist icon. And I'm like, fucking power to the women. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
like, there is a spot like there. So Eve is in there, but I don't want to give too much away, but she's basically Eve and Hecate are written as the same, so they're like just two
Wow.
of the same name, but basically because in gosh, I don't. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna tell you about it. And I'm just gonna put it on here, and then I'm gonna leave it at this. But
No,
Eve is
please.
known as like she is known as Death because she was the first to physically die. And so when
Okay.
so when she died, she became the physical embodiment of death and then received this like almost shunningness from heaven and from God. But she became like
Mm.
equals to God and like the devil, quote unquote, because she created death. Like she was death. And so
I
like
really like that. I really like that.
and so they call her the Ava, and it's because she has like Ava was the original translation for Eve or original name for Eve, and it's
Mhm.
because she is known. Her symbol is like an A without the bar in the middle of V, and then an A without the R in the middle. So it's like two upside down A's like sandwiching. I mean, two upside down V sandwiching a right side V, and they call her the Ava.
Yeah.
And it's because she is known to
Oh.
be like of three different forms, two that are up and one that's down, and she has three different
Wow.
positions. Yeah, and so Hecate is part of that group that she is known to be like, but they were like she is their goddess, like she is what they worship and everything, and so she's very held up
Yeah.
in high board. But in this universe too, the Ava, her sister or Eve's sister, is Lilith, and they're actually like very close and like very like they like love each other.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so Lilith is like experienced the same, like Lilith was the first to turn away and Eve like judged her for it. But then whenever Eve was then abandoned by heaven, Lilith was there for her and like consoled her and like forgave her for
Ah,
and kind of helped her like rule death, like helped her kind of bring everything to life.
yeah,
And so like bring everything to life, bring like her realm to life. And it's like in
of
her realm,
course.
it's this beautiful garden that like is just like flowing with flowers. And there's this river that's like the river of or like the river of the second chances or something like that, where when you die, she controls the path of reincarnation. And so Lilith isn't like a main character, but she has like a very prominent role in like there is a big bad that has been the big bad for a long time where Lilith and Eve work
Yeah.
together to like confine this big bad. So
Oh, I
yeah.
love that. I love the take of sisters as well, because in my script, there isn't essentially an Eve character, but they're lovers. Lilith and Eve are
Ooh,
actually like a couple. And because of my whole thing with like
I like
Lilith
that
being
actually.
like, yeah, like the lesbian kind of the eternal jealousy, or
Mhm.
not jealousy, but just feeling what is the word I'm thinking of?
Longing.
Forgotten. I want to say yeah, like the longing. Like when
Mhm.
I brought up Dracula earlier and I said I've crossed oceans of time to find you, that line being like kind of important to me, and like the sorrow and the longing, that is why I chose
Mhm.
Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. It is also tied into what I'm writing currently about this like eternal longing and connection, and then what happens when you lose that connection,
Yeah.
and what transpires and what it can do to like a person,
Yeah.
and then being that vulnerable, what can inhabit that person. And then tying that in with, I really like that you brought up color theory, because mind you, I didn't call it color theory, but it is color theory, which is
Yeah.
like certain shades and dark and light, the darkness, the light,
Yeah.
the dimming
Lighting
of
is
the
a huge
light.
piece. Yeah. I think I
Yeah.
might
But
have
I
like
think that story,
sorry, my bad. What were you saying?
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think I still might have my old like PDF version of my book I had to buy for color theory when I was studying it in college. So if I do, I'll send it to you. That way you can like look at it
I would
too.
love that. I would
Yeah.
love that. That's my favorite shit to do. Like, I love to find a book with like I read a lot of Russian lit, but when
Hmm.
I want to like really learn a thing, I'll do like uh, psychology or quantum mechanics, like,
Yeah.
you know,
You know, that's something.
vibration, sound, light, electromagnetic forces, all that good shit.
I was going to say that earlier too, whenever you were talking about the spiritual aspect of vibration and things like that. I'm a
Mhm.
big, because I'm very spiritual, very woo woo, as you said, but I also have this
Mhm.
really weird, like, skeptical mind where I believe, like, the reason why I'm so spiritual is because I believe that, like, in like 1,000 years, there's going to be a scientific term for the spiritual things I'm experiencing. So like when you say like
Yeah.
you wonder if I'm like tapping into the vibration, I'm like, like I had never looked at it like that. I always looked at it from a very scientific standpoint, but like really there could be a spiritual element to it that is actually even
Yeah.
more scientific. We just haven't found the like study of it yet. You know what I'm saying? Like I believe that
Well, it's
science.
like entering,
Yeah.
yeah. I was gonna say it's like entering the astral plane. Like these are, and we're talking, we want to talk about, perception and reality, and what that means is like humans perceive existence one way, but there's so many alternate existences and like ways to exist, and how we exist. There's so many others out there that we're not honing in on, because we're very much disconnected from nature. I think that's
Mhm.
a main thing. I think when we think about vibration, it's intrinsic to electricity for me, like the
Mhm.
waves of sound and the waves of electricity and how light moves through things. And when you can connect, like grounding yourself, like walking outside barefoot and standing on the ground and chanting, for me is like
Mhm.
connecting with that vibration. And suddenly, like, I've had things happen to me when I was chanting. I was sitting out on my porch one night. I didn't have any of my candles. I had my one crystal, and I just kind of sit there. I kind of do things unorthodoxly. Like, I don't follow a traditional thing, and that sometimes does fuck me, but that's just my own prerogative. That's just how I am. And I suffer the consequences when they come, and learn from them and what have you. But I was sitting outside, I was chanting, and because I do the Nam Yoho Renge Kyo, like that's my go-to. It's always
Mhm.
for some reason been really something it's connective for me. Like
Mhm.
it hits a certain point within me that I feel very, very connected. So I utilize it frequently. And I was doing that, and I started to feel like my body was shaking, and you kind of tune everything out
Mhm.
while simultaneously connect and hear everything at once. Speaking of everything everywhere all at once, like you kind of connect with everything at once while simultaneously tuning it out. And I started to, for me, sometimes I will not hallucinate, but you turn into your own mind,
Yeah.
and the visuals that start happening, and it kind of is first black, and then I'll see certain things. It's reminiscent of being on mushrooms, but it's,
Yeah.
obviously I'm sober when I do this, for the most part. And I kind of went into that, and my partner was next to me, and I forgot they were even next to me. And all of the sudden, I felt like I was violently shaking, like
Mhm.
violently shaking. And it was not scary in any
Yeah.
way, but I was like moving, and I was seeing the conjuncture of like I think the moon and the sun coming together. It was really fucking weird.
Mm.
I don't really know what I saw. It was a visual. And then I snapped out of it and I asked Christine, I asked my partner, I said, was I fucking shaking? Because I was so detached from my body, yet somehow so grounded. I don't know how to explain it. I really don't.
Yeah.
It sounds so weird to try to verbalize exactly what those feelings were. It was very much at the crosshairs of that. And they were like, no, you weren't moving at all. In fact, I thought you fell asleep. And I was like, no, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. And just in that moment, as I came to and asked that question, a giant white barn owl, and I'm not joking, it was night. So it was about 10 o'clock at night and it's pitch black out in the desert. And this giant winged thing comes flying up and lands right in front of me. And it happened as I opened my eyes. So I asked the question before I opened my eyes. I opened my eyes and it flies right up like a phantom, like a ghoul in the night, lands right in front of me. And I look at Christine and I say, is this really happening? Is this a real occurrence or am I hallucinating? And Christine was frozen and they were like, no, that thing is right in front of us. And I was like,
when did this happen?
Oh, this was maybe like a year ago.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, because whenever y'all posted on TikTok about, I'm assuming this is who was also in the TikTok with you about dressing up as like a themed part, like Halloween party or
divorce costumes.
Yeah. So because whenever I mentioned Athena and Medusa, because Athena is the one who cursed her, some rewrites.
Oh, I loved that. I love that you said that too. I was so like,
yeah.
Yes. I didn't know. I mean, I didn't even think about it that way. So it was such a nice like new way of thinking about it.
Yeah. Athena is represented by the owl, specifically by like a large white owl. So
I did not know. I'm going to be completely frank with you. I did not know that. That adds a new layer to what I've thought it was, because in some lore, in indigenous culture, my partner is indigenous Mexican. So in indigenous culture, owls are not necessarily a good thing. And yeah, it's in some cultures, owls are messengers of money and fortune, I believe. And then in others, it's an omen.
Ooh.
And then in others, it's like a very alien thing. Like, I don't know if this isn't necessarily a cultural thing, but I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Fourth Kind. It's got Milla Jovovich in it. Another one I would recommend. It's an alien-based film, and a big theme about it, or imagery around it, is a barn owl. Very almost identical to the one that landed right in front of me. And it felt like, and again, this is another thing to tie it back into my Lilith script, because Lilith is so I actually have this here. Nobody's going to be able to see this, but it's the Book of Lilith.
Ooh.
And it's lightly annotated, but I highly recommend. You can find it on Amazon.
Yeah.
Please look into it. It's been a big help with my script, and it's about her connection with so-called beasts, animals, those that crawl.
Yeah.
Specifically an owl and snakes.
Yeah, she had an owl that was like her
Lilith.
What was her owl's name?
I honestly don't know.
Hold on, I'm about to Google it, because I know that in the Sabrina the Teenage Witch, whenever they put her in there, they made it a crow or a raven, but like it was actually an owl. And like,
really,
Lilith.
All the more reason why this was important for my script, because this was around the time where I was about to give up. To be fair, I was about to give up on the script wholeheartedly. What is it?
Stolas, S-T-O-L-A-S. One of the name of her familiar, Stolas, comes from one of the creatures in the Ars Goetia. Coincidentally, the creature in this book is also portrayed it's portrayed as a raven in this book. But yeah.
In which part? So for Lilith lore, we'll call it. So she's been written in Assyrian text, Sumerian, Hebrew, and she's got this. It's like something that you would, when they depicted her in like the Talmud, or
it said it was the Judeo-Christian specifically mythology. It was alternatively the first wife of Adam name. So the Ars Goetia.
Okay. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I'll send you this. It just looks
Please.
like
this is likely, and I'm terrible, because this is likely stuff that I've all read and even made annotations around and probably just forgot, because the script, like, it's so long. It would rival Scorsese pictures at this point, and I'm still dialing it back. Editors, you know how they are. They're like,
Mhm.
"Girl, be fucking for real."
But
Don't
also,
let
like,
me make my 4-hour movie.
yeah, well, we also well, see, 4 hours, I'm like, "Oh," but also, like, a lot of, like, people, I was talking to because 'cause I'm really involved with Lionsgate, and we were
Nice.
doing this, like, little talk with them about, it was one of the guys that he's, like, one of the executives that controls, script intake, like, what scripts they decide to make into movies and what they,
Mhm,
like, don't,
mhm.
and he said that horror scripts, people like don't want them to be too long. He was like, they're one of the easiest things to like sell. He's like, but people like never want them too long. Like an hour and a half is too long for like, or is like the like right length for a long horror movie. And I'm like, I want to, if I'm going to watch a movie, I want to like sit there for a couple of hours and watch a movie. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to
Yeah.
just like, I don't want to
I
sit
like
there for
a
like an hour and like, I feel like I'm not going to get really scared or get really into it, like,
I agree, and I'm one of those people that I will watch. My partner gives me shit for it because they are not like this, but I will watch long, like slow burn-esque
mhm,
films in their entirety, completely absorbed by it. And
mhm,
those are the ones that I end up being like I feel so exhilarated after, and most people they're very drained. And
yeah,
I feel like I love a long film because I'm very nitpicky. I want to have all the little ends meet, and
yeah,
I like it drawn out, like I really do. And
yeah,
I think that does influence a lot of my writing. I'm a little wordy. That's because I put a lot of imagery in because imagery to me is extremely important. When it comes down to the performance, that is really up to the actor and the
mhm,
director and how, I can make my little notes here and there, but I want to see it come to life,
yeah,
by the people that are hired or cast. Um, it in my brain, I just want to mention this really quick. Sorry, another quick tangent.
you're good.
Um, I one of the characters she is a former, so the ghostwriter does, I'll give a little bit more about this idea so you have some context around this. The main character is ghostwriting for this woman who was abducted in the 70s by a known serial killer and who escaped. And this is like based on a true kind of story to a
Yeah,
degree, lightly
yeah,
infused with things that have
inspired.
actually happened. Yeah, I mean, art imitates life, imitates art, all that good shit.
Yeah.
Um, so this older woman in my mind who's now having to create this memoir because she can no longer afford to live in the house she lives in, which is another sad travesty in America, like how the elderly are forced to work well into their late years. Thank you, capitalism, you goddamn motherfucker.
Mhm. You monster.
And and I also wanted to touch on the exploitation of victims,
Mhm.
and that is another big thing within this storyline. And she has to write this memoir. And the person that I imagine playing this older woman who is my favorite character that I've written ever,
Mhm.
is Shelley Duvall.
Ooh.
Yeah, like that's if I had it my goddamn way, would be Shelley Duvall. She is
Okay.
absolutely iconic and perfect. And with all respect, because I know of the horrors she herself has been through within the industry, with
Mhm.
another horror director that a lot of people aspire to be like, Mr. Kubrick.
Mhm.
Um, that poor woman went through hell, to give us that performance.
Mhm.
Although I'd argue it was her real experience.
I've said the same thing. Yes.
Yeah, and I mean I love those movies, I do, but I want to have her for, for a multitude of
Mhm.
reasons, and that's why I imagine it, and she's living out in the desert. She's a hoarder,
Yeah.
as we know, because obviously trauma. A lot of those I have friends whose family members are hoarders, and um, it's really steeped in just immense trauma. And I
Mhm.
felt like it was important to kind of show that side, but again, without exploitation. This is to be done respectfully. That is the most important thing about my writing is like I hate when it's egregious. Like I feel like a lot of filmmakers, and I hate to say it, but specifically men, they'll take the trauma of people that they don't know anything about, and kind of exacerbate it for their gain and exploit it for their own gain.
Yeah.
And it's because it's not met with empathy. It's not
Yeah.
met with understanding. It's met with dollar signs in their eyes.
Yeah. That
So
makes
that
Yeah, sorry. No, but So Hughes is someone that I've had on the podcast before. We had like the longest episode I've ever recorded was Hughes and Ben. They both came on and talked about it, and they're also on TikTok, and they're part of the Fiction Forge, the group that I was just talking about earlier.
Nice.
And Hughes posted something on TikTok one time that shaped so much and like has helped bring me to the point where I am with my novel, like where I'm like, I'm finally here. I finally know the story.
Yeah.
I finally understand, because it's about like the two main characters are lesbians, and they're like, well, one of them's bisexual, one of them's lesbian, but they're like in love, they fall in love with each other.
Sapphic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what now?
Oh, I said they're just sapphic, like, you know.
What's that mean?
Oh, sapphic is like women loving women. I use
yeah,
it. It's like
okay,
a all-encompassing term. Yeah.
Ah, cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so like women love it. Yeah, I like that. I didn't realize that was a thing. I was like, what is it? I think I've heard that before, but each time I was like, I don't know what that is, and I'm gonna wait. Like
It's used, I think, well, and I think it's also used a lot more now because it's I have no problem saying the word lesbian. I know that that's like a huge discord within the gay community, the LGBT, the alphabet mafia community. Is like, you know, can we say lesbian, this, that, and everything? I'll say lesbian, I'll say dyke, I'll say it all. I don't,
yeah.
you know, but when you're trying to kind of be all encompassing, like maybe put a blanket over on like women, female presenting people loving other female presenting people and people with uteruses, it's sapphic. Yeah, so that's like a common phrase, and it's after Sappho. If you know anything about Sappho, the poet from the Isle of Lesbos.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, yeah, I like that. So yeah, so it's very sapphic.
More,
cool.
you know.
Yeah, I like that. Full circle. Anyways, but
yeah.
So, but yeah, they so that was something. But there's also like some racial like things that go in with it too. Like Mackenzie is one of the main characters, and I'm hoping that like whenever I say these names, people will be able to put a face to the name and everything soon, because I plan to have like the final like rough draft done next year to where I can actually start working toward, you know, everything. But Mackenzie is white and is like it's a fantasy kind of, it's like fantasy world meets like real world too. Like there's like the earth is a real place, and like it's just a very like if you read it you get it, if you know. So but anyway, so Mackenzie is like, and Shyla Thibodeau are the two main like people in it. And Shyla is black, Mackenzie's white. It also takes place in like a world where there are witches and things like that. And there have been a lot of like, there's been a lot of racism within, like I mirror the like real world, like into the witch world too, and basically show like all the things that happened in the real world also happened in the magic world too, like, or in the physical world happened in the magic world too. And so I've always kind of struggled with like how to tell this story and think like, because there was always like certain aspects that I was wanting to go into it, and like I couldn't quite pinpoint it. And I got a reading a little while back that was like, write a story about compassion. And I was like, okay, so it's going to be about family, you know, like family, compassion, blah, blah, whatever else. And then but one day Hughes was on TikTok and was stitching somebody that was talking about, I'm not even going to give this person glory and what they were saying, because they were like talking about some crazy ass story that they had written that was about like humans being, and it was a white woman, and she was talking about humans being oppressed and enslaved by dragons or some shit like that. But she was trying to make it seem like the Bible was like the ultimate truth, and like basically had been like destroyed by the dragons, and a human found the Bible. Like it was a whole, it was.
We're not going to have another Stephanie Meyer. We're absolutely not. We're absolutely not. We're good.
No thanks.
We're good.
We can do without. But yeah, so Hughes stitched them because they basically were like, and I struggled for a really long time and was like, I was afraid that I just wasn't mature enough of a writer, but I finally feel like I am. And Hughes stitched it and was like, and you're still not a mature enough of a writer. And was basically like the summary. And this summary of what Hughes said, because Hughes is like uses they them pronouns, and they are a person of color. And so like they were like, you are a white woman talking about, or like making a story about the main characters who are oppressed, yet you have never experienced racial oppression. So don't write about it. Like if you're going to write about it, this is not the way to do it. And she was like, instead, if you're not going to get help from other people who have actually experienced it, write about being the oppressor. And when she said that, I mean, when they said that, it like clicked in my head. And like, I like literally was like, that's it. Like I'm a white man, like I'm gay and I'm liberal and I'm open-minded and I like to think I'm woke, and I've like broken away from the way I was raised, because I was raised very conservatively, but like I'm still a white man. you know? And I was
That
like,
awareness goes a long way. That
well,
awareness goes a long way.
and
Like
that's
that's
also
important.
like, I mean, because I've always looked at things like I never want to like come across as like a white savior kind of thing. Cause like that's not me at all. Like I'm not like one of those people that's like, I'm white, but I'm here for you. I'm like, nah, dude, like you speak, I'm gonna shut up. But if somebody tries to talk over you, I'm gonna yell at them. You know, like that's just me.
And I think that's what it is. It's like using your privilege to, yeah, you know this. I mean, you seem very aware of this. There's a hyper awareness of like, and a lot of white folks don't have that. Like on my
Yeah,
mom's side, that's what the white side.
yeah.
My dad is the Egyptian Palestinian, and then my mom is like European, and you can. It's so interesting to grow up in that household and see that kind of dynamic, and
Mhm.
um, it yeah. There's
Yeah,
no. Let's just put it this way: a lot of people are not aware. They think they are, but
yeah.
the
Well,
shit that'll come out of their mouths, you're like, oh my god.
insane. And see, that's exactly what like I think the thing with me, what really helped my like becoming awareness was like, or becoming aware was I became okay with being corrected, if that makes sense. So like I
And
just
being
stopped.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
just like I
Yeah.
stopped taking it personally if I was corrected. And it was just like, okay, cool. Thank you for letting me know. You know, like, cool. Now that you've
Yeah.
explained this to me. And then that also led to me not being afraid to ask questions. Hey, as a white man, if I say something like this, is that okay? How does that? And but obviously not saying it to like, I can't go up to any like person of color on the street and just be like, hey, so as a white man, do you think it's okay for me to say this? Because that's going to come across all wrong. But like finding my people that I'm comfortable with, finding friends that I'm
Yeah.
comfortable with that view the same way that I do, that are also like open-minded, having friends in my corner that like are from all different walks of life, being able to ask those questions, being like, hey, like, because I would hope a straight friend would feel comfortable asking me questions about being gay, you know? And so just
Yeah,
building those
absolutely.
friendships where you're comfortable asking questions, you're comfortable getting the answers you may not be comfortable with, but knowing that it's
Yeah.
for the better, you know, and like being willing to just respect other people's experiences because I'm not black. I don't know what it's like to be black. I can have
And I
empathy.
think, yeah, that's how you weed people out. That's how you
Mhm.
weed. I feel like for me, I've dropped the amount of white women in my life that I've dropped in the last couple of years because they would claim to be, it was just the most demonic shit. And it happens, unfortunately, a lot on the West Coast. People believe themselves wholly to be liberal.
Mhm.
And I'm not necessarily, I wouldn't classify myself as a liberal because I mean, I'm very, very far, like I'm all the way on the left. I'm
Yeah.
all the way on the left.
You're like, you're
Like,
so far left that it's like, are you? Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, because I say that I'm very liberal, as in like I am by the actual definition liberal, where I'm like, let's change shit up. I'm tired of this, you know,
yes,
like, but like, yeah,
progressive liberal. Yeah.
mhm,
But I've weeded out so many white women in my life. Specifically, I'll say white women. I've also the men I typically am like, "Ugh," like, but
yeah,
I had a lot of like white female friends in LA that showed their whole ass. And it took for me was to mention, what you're doing is wrong. And I speak solely from the perspective of an Arab, like a Palestinian woman.
hmm,
I never would deign to know what it's like to be like, say, a black trans woman. And I
hmm,
would never even fathom to compare myself to what black people have to go through in this country and all over
yeah,
the world,
yeah,
to be completely frank. But
hmm,
when speaking from my own perspective, like speaking from my own experiences, and I would bring that up or bring it to the table, whether it was in regards to certain microaggressions from these so-called these said white women, I was met very quickly with animosity, with hostility, with
hmm,
um victimization, and for me that is a tell-all, and you can only give someone so many chances. And I would just say, you know what, there's no awareness here. You are
yeah,
blindly calling yourself a progressive or left-leaning person, but it's very self-aggrandizing. Like it's very
mhm,
much a selfish kind of title you've given yourself. It has nothing to do with the understanding and the compassion and the empathy for those around you that are not living with the privilege that you have for all this time
yeah.
and your people have for all this time. And it's I think it's once somebody crosses that line, I'm very quick to, maybe in Virgo fashion, I'll just drop them like a bad habit. I
Yeah.
don't care. Like
And that's,
I'm gone.
and that's something too. I've always really identified with like Virgos for that, like the straightforwardness, the like almost like a
Mhm.
judgy tone, but like it's judgy as in like not judging you, but judging the situation. Because I'm
Mhm.
the same way, where it's like, hey,
Yeah.
like I'm not judging, I'm assessing. And I need to
Mhm.
understand, is this really what you're doing here? Because, and I
Yeah.
found out later on, it's because my Mars is in Virgo, and Mars is all about like
Ah,
confrontation, strategy, like what I'm saying, like it's how you deal with
damn, that's
conflict.
intense.
Yeah, and so like I very quickly will flip and be like, so when you say this, what do you mean by that? I think that's pretty fucked up, don't you? Like
Yeah, yeah.
I literally got into it with an Uber driver one time of all like this man could have killed me and he
Ooh,
was already
yeah,
driving
ooh.
crazy. and he said some really fucked up about stuff about somebody. They were female presenting, but he looked at them and was like, "That's a man." And I was like, "What?" And he said, "That's a man. Look at him." And I was like, "Why?" And he was like, "I bet he's one of those like," and he said like, "I bet he's one of those trans people." And I was like, "Well, I think that's pretty fucked up, don't you?" And he like, because I was already being quiet and just quiet and like polite and everything, and he very quickly like flipped him, was like, "What'd you say?" And I was like, "I said I think that's pretty fucked up, don't you?" And he was like, "Well, I wasn't. I didn't mean anything like that." But I was like, "What? Oh, you want to backtrack real quick now, don't you? Now that you realize that I'm not just a good old boy that's going to jump in with you and talk shit, like, and now you want to backtrack. Oh, where was that just saying it with your chest? Where did that go?"
Yeah. And those are the spaces that's so important. Like
Mhm.
within, because I mean, I've had a lot of people mistake me. I mean, it's typically white people. Other people of color never look at me and are like, "You're a white girl." Like they're usually like, "Okay, so you're there somewhere." Either,
Mhm.
you know, Mexican. Sometimes I get Mexican. Sometimes I get, sometimes people will clock me and be like, "Are you Arab?" And I'm like, "Wow, thank you. Like, you got it. Ding,
Thanks
ding,
for
ding."
seeing me. Like,
Yeah. Like, oh, I really appreciate being perceived in that way. But so, what was I going to say? Oh, in those spaces, I will take advantage and be that voice because I mean, I would never, first of all, I would never bring, there were so many times back when, like ages ago, when I was in certain really unhealthy spaces that I would never have wanted to bring any of my friends of color into or
Mhm.
my Black friends into because it's just, like as time went on, I was like, this is not a safe space even for me, you know?
Mhm.
And you start to realize that as people start opening their mouths because I'm a talker, but sometimes I will just observe. I
Mhm.
will observe and report to myself. And then, you know, after a while, I started speaking up. And then that's when they were all like, "You're nuts." And then they start to try to gaslight you into feeling
Uh-huh.
like you're just an aggressive. Like, I think I had someone recently, not that recently, because I, again, dropped them out of my fucking life, but they said I was aggro. They called me aggro. And I was like, you know, white girl, don't use that term. Like, don't, yeah. And I was like, see, it's the microaggressions that are microaggressing for
Yeah.
me.
It's like,
But,
wow. It's
yeah.
just, and when people don't realize that, that's what annoys the hell out of me. But yeah, like, yeah, please continue with what
But
you're
that's
saying. Just like,
But the Uber story is funny because for me, I don't have that. Like my survival skills are strong, but in those certain moments when I talk about this inherent sense of justice,
mhm.
I would have just like closed palm, like, like just crack that guy and be like, "Why don't you see?" I sometimes I'll talk and I will give my insight intellectually and calmly and collectively as I possibly can. But with certain people, especially ones that I don't know and I don't want to give the grace of understanding or explaining to,
Yeah.
I just want to hit them. I just want to crack them and just be like, "What have we learned?"
Oh my gosh, I don't know why. And maybe this is where the Pisces comes in because my immediate brain, like my immediate response to situations like that isn't like, I'm like, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, but it's not because I genuinely want to give them the benefit of the doubt. It's because I'm like, surely I don't exist in a world where somebody would feel comfortable saying this with their whole chest.
Yeah, I
Surely
think that
I'm
makes sense.
misinterpreting this, you know? And so that's why I
Yeah.
immediately, I'm just like, that's what'd you say? Like, I'm like, he didn't say that. I'm gonna try it again. What'd you say? Like, you know, like, and I do that all the time where I'm like, surely this is not the situation that's happening.
Mhm.
Surely I'm misreading this. And I like take it, like I internalize it and I'm like, it's me. I'm being silly, goofy. I like gaslight myself. And the moment that I realize I'm not, then it immediately flips where I'm like, the fuck you say? Like, you know, like,
Yeah, yeah, and I think that also, I mean, that is it's a fine line. Like sometimes I believe that is more beneficial to the cause, and
mhm,
then my alternate, my evil side, that
yeah,
side of me, the devil on my shoulder, is like,
yeah,
"Girl, deck 'em,
yeah.
deck 'em.
I've
There's
never
no talking here."
Yeah, I never want to give people the opportunity to play the victim, though. That's what my thing is. Like, I immediately am like, if I'm gonna deck you, I want to make sure it's obvious that it's a retaliation thing. You know,
They
like
got to swing first, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like, I want it to be very obvious that like you started some shit and I had to finish it. You know, like I never
Yeah,
want to give you the option to like play the victim or anything like that. Like that's just like my like low key trauma induced. Like it's obviously trauma, manipulative side that I had to
it's
kind of grow
opposite.
away from. Like yeah,
Yeah.
but
I
but yeah,
mean, no, I mean, to be fair, you're saving yourself the charges. Like,
yeah.
I mean, sometimes I'm like, I'll catch a charge. Like, I will catch a
I
charge. If
look at
it's
you know.
egregious, like bigotry, I will catch a charge. And I always tell I have so many like trans friends, and I say, you know, if you're ever walking and you just want someone to come walk with you, that if anybody tries you, I'll beat the shit out of them. Like, I will do it. I'll be your bodyguard.
Yeah.
And and I want to put that on this podcast. Anybody out there that wants a bodyguard, I'm
Let me
here.
know. I have my friend Morgan. I freaking adore her. And I really have to have self-awareness with this because she is a Black woman. And so like, I become
I just
like,
followed her. I think I just followed her
did
on
you? Oh
TikTok.
yeah. Because it's
Yeah,
yeah.
I was.
And so yeah, you
She's
guys
very
go follow
funny.
Morgan. If you have not followed Morgan, go follow her. She's Moves 18 or something like that on TikTok. Go if you go to my TikTok, same if you do look at who I follow, or like I just post a video, go follow her. She's amazing. But she like I have to catch myself. I have to be very because I'm already like a very protective person. And being like a gay man, I have the privileges of being a man, and being a white man, I have the privileges of being a man. But then also being gay, like I have the like also experience of oppression, you know what I'm saying? And like being somebody
Yeah.
like trigger warning essay. I'm like I am a not I don't want to say survivor, but I am a survivor of like sexual assault. And so like because I don't like saying victim because like I'm not a victim. Like I'm
No,
like
no.
yeah. And so but like with all of that, I'm like and luckily I say luckily because like in my experience it was an adulthood and I really believe that me being a larger man like is what kept it from being as bad as what it could have been, but there was just a lot that like really played into what happened, you know. And so like with
Yeah.
all of that I'm like imagine if I was like a woman that somebody felt comfortable pushing past that point with, you know, like I mean I was still sexually assaulted but like women are
Yeah,
just
it's not
seen so much
negate.
more. Yeah. And so it's like very like, you know, with like women, there's so many times where it's like somebody will push and do worse just because it's a woman and they feel like they can, you know? And so
And
I,
it's like the vantage point of a man, like they believe they have that kind of, as I said,
yeah,
vantage point. And it's like
yeah,
a, the status of being a man in existence right now is you believe yourself, especially if you're willing to take that and do that to someone, you do probably firmly stand in the fact that you're above them and
yeah,
you can't, it's always about control.
yeah,
It's always a power dynamic.
hmm
It always is.
yeah,
And I feel like that,
yeah. And so but I just become very hyper vigilant of like my friends, especially because I hang out with so many women and so many female presenting people that it's like
yeah.
I like whenever we go out and like go and grab drinks and things like that, I just like I've noticed like I won't even be paying attention to it, but subconsciously I'm constantly on like my head's on a swivel where I'm like making
Mm,
sure. So I went to this rave one time and like Morgan is like you're very like not to stereotype or anything like that because that's not what this is meant for at all. It's all meant with good intention.
mhm.
She is your typical like pretty girl. She is like a very I mean just stunning model dancer, has a good
Yeah, she's
body.
very pretty.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but then she's also like African American, and so she's one of these
Mhm.
people that she's very like, I'll hang out with whoever. I don't care. I'm open minded. I'm chill. Whatever. You know, like that's just her vibe. And so, like,
Yeah.
and she also just is like there to have a good time. So there are a lot of times where like we'll be out and like going to bars and things like that, and you'll see like the straight white like fraternity dude see this like
Mm.
pretty Black girl and you can tell like immediately what's written on their face, you know what I'm saying? And like
Yeah.
I have caught myself so many like we were at a rave one time and we were all throwing ass, we were having a good time, we found a bunch of
Yeah.
you know, and we found a group of sisters that were like saw Morgan and saw like me, like saw that I was a big like you know, like gay man, like throwing ass with my friend that's a Black woman, so they felt comfortable coming over and hanging out with us. You know what I'm saying? You know how it is. Like
Yeah.
when you see a
Yeah.
group of diverse people, you're like, okay, cool, I'm safe here, you know. And so
It's a safe
typically,
space. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
And so we're all over there dancing, and like Morgan kind of gets a little separated away from me, and like not in like an alarming way or anything like that, but like
Yeah.
I did not even notice that I was still keeping tabs on her until I like did what I'm about to say. So these girls all kind of start dancing around her, and I see these two little frat dudes like kind of dancing over and everything. And they like were talking to her earlier the night, and I was like, all right, they see like a lot of times that those people that have bad intentions will see like one of my friends with me, and not to be like I'm you know like a bad boy, but like I mean I'm a big dude, you know what I'm saying? Like they know that I would like I'd beat the fuck out of somebody if I had to, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
From like having a good time to like throwing hands real quick if I had to, you know, and like
Absolutely.
and so, but he like this one dude just kept talking to her, and he saw me with her and like kind of eyeballed me a little bit, but not like a weird one. I was just like, "Hey man, how are you?" And I was like, "Nah," you know, like whatever. And so
Mm.
I'm sitting there and I'm dancing, and all of a sudden I get this like weird staticky feeling that has happened. Like another trigger warning at New Year's Eve this year. Going into New Year's, we were not involved. Like we were in an area where there was a shooting, And leading up into the shooting, like there were 9 people that got shot. One unfortunately died. And so I was thought about like talking about this on
America.
the podcast, like, yeah. And so, but all that whole night leading up to that, my friend Haley and I kept talking about how we had this like weird staticky feeling. And it's something I've had my whole life, like where like when something starts happening, it's in the same spot that I was telling you earlier, where that loud sound, like that sounds like the strum or like the like bad strum of a guitar, like I get it right here, like at the back of my head, kind of above my neck. And it's just this like weird staticky kind of like strange feeling where I'll kind of hear it too a little bit. And I got all of a sudden got this feeling, and I just like stopped dancing, and in a swivel was just like looked over like evil glaring this dude, and he's
like a clairvoyance.
yeah, and he's like I swear in my head it looked like in an anime, like where if some like a character all of a sudden got mad and they just like turned their head all the way around on their body, and like
Oh my God, yes.
that's what it like in my head looked like. But I was like sitting there dancing, having a good time, and I was just like, and I look over and he's like throwing his ass into her to where she's like losing her balance. And like Morgan can dance, you know, like she knows how to dance, like, but she's like losing her balance because of how hard he's like ramming into her, and to the point where the other girls around him, like, yeah, and most of the girls that were dancing around her were also Black women. So like, you know, like this white dude dancing all up into the, you know what I'm saying? It was just like a, like you knew the situation, you knew what he was trying to do.
That seems a little, yeah.
And so, and I'm not trying to say like all straight white dudes would be like this. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just like, it was like one of the situations where it's like, I'm not dumb, and I'm not like, I'm going to listen to my gut here, and I'm not letting my friend get put in a position where she's going to end up being date raped or something like that, you know? And so like,
I think everybody needs a friend like that. Everybody should have a friend or 2 or 3 like that, because the people that just disregard it and act like nothing's wrong bother the shit out of me.
Yeah, and that just, I'd rather overreact a little bit and know that my friend is safe than like not overreact and something bad happen to her.
And you're being realistic. You're being realistic in today's day and age. And even at any point in history, you can see that. Just anthropologically, we can look back and look into human behaviors. And it's just a matter of like assessing that, observing that, and being like, I need to either prepare myself and be ready to act. I hate when people try to, it's almost like toxic positivity, where they're like, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's better if we pretend that everything's fine and nothing could go wrong. It's like, well, not to be a negative Nancy, I guess, as some would call it, but life, okay? Reality. Welcome back to reality. And that isn't the like divine safety isn't the case for everybody at all times. Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, terrible, tragic things. I mean, like I said at the beginning of this call, like we were literally in a place where there was a shooting. That could have easily been one of us. We had literally just surrounded the block, and right where we had just left is when the shots got fired. Like literally, we were right. And so
it's a survival mentality. It's survival. You're enacting an age-old thing, you know?
Yeah. And that's what, so like with that friend, like whenever, or with Morgan, when that happened, I like stopped dancing and I reached over to try and tap her, but he was dancing so hard into her that like I couldn't even reach her. And so I touched one of the girls that was moving away from her, from him, and she didn't realize it. And I finally tapped her, and she turned around and looked at me. I was like, get her. And she was like, what? And I was like, get her attention and tell her to look at me. And she was like, okay. And so she tapped my friend, but then she looked back. I think she was alarmed by me acting like that, but she didn't realize that I was like doing it out of protection. But so she tapped Morgan, and Morgan finally turned back, and I like held my hand out to her, and I pulled her to me away from this dude. And the dude like acted all, and I like literally put my finger up to him. I was like, you hold on a fucking second. And when I did that, the girl that I told to tap Morgan, she was like, oh, okay. All right. Like she immediately saw like, okay, no, and I said, are you okay, to Morgan? And she was like, yeah, I'm good. And I was like, are you okay? And he was like, hey, dude. And I was like, shut up. Are you okay? And she was like,
no one was asking him.
Yeah. Like, she like, no. She was like, she like kind of nodded, and she was like, no, I'm good. Thank you though. And I was like, all right. And so I just kind of turned back, but I looked at him, and I literally just stared at him for a second and then turned back and started dancing. But it was like, I needed him to know, like, I'm fucking watching. Like, I'm not playing these games.
Yeah.
Like, I see what the hell you're doing. Like, don't fuck with my people, you know? And
especially, when dudes try to isolate one of the girls. I've been out with, you know, other women where that happens, and you can tell that it's a threatening thing, and they're trying to isolate someone from the herd, as it were. And then women also have that certain, it's a universal kind of look where you can tell, like, if something's going on and you want your gal, your friend, to help you, you give them the look.
Yeah.
You know, like, this is
with her too, she's like, I mean, she is a baddie. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that she couldn't take care of herself but I could just see like she was visibly she was like kind of trying to like push away and like trying to act like it was funny and like, you know, but I could just see it on her face. But what like really alarmed me is that he had two friends with him that were also kind of standing nearby, just kind of like swaying back and forth and not dancing the same way he was. And I'm like, I listen to too many true crime podcasts where this happens to women.
Yeah.
One friend is drawing all the attention so that nobody notices the two other friends that are going to grab the girl that they're isolating. You know what I'm saying? I was like, we're not playing that. Like, nope. So.
And we're surrounded by that so much now. Like, that is such a big part of the culture now, is true crime. And like I said, you know, when we talked about not exploiting that, and while I've listened to true crime and I've watched my fair share of documentaries, and I also grew up around watching it. Thanks, Mom, again. God, because obviously trauma. Obviously it's trauma. And I just feel like it's so ingrained in our culture now that I'm surprised when people don't jump to that conclusion. I'm like, I mean, do you live under a rock? Like, and look, I'm not to say that I'm shaming anyone for not watching those things. There are a lot of people, my partner included, who don't, and my partner's very aware. Like, they don't necessarily need to watch true crime to be that aware. And I would argue that most women or women of color or female presenting people of color don't need to watch that stuff because, you know, they live it on a daily basis, that awareness, that hyper awareness, that survival instinct, that but I just feel like it's so heavily, it's been so introduced to us in this generation that when I go out, I can't help but look at those signs, you know. Like, it's happened to me before where and not to, just a quick little tangent or little anecdote for the cause here. I went out with these friends, and one of them is the one that I dropped not that long ago because I just couldn't. It's toxic, they're a problem. But we went out. It was my partner and I, my partner's non-binary, and there was a trans man there who was with us as well, and then my old ex-friends. We're sitting at a bar, and we're sitting outside, and we're all just drinking, catching up, laughing, having a good time. And it's a table of what someone might presume a table of, to their eye, women, you know, some predatory man through his eyes would view it as a table of, prey, specimens to engage with. Because I'm of the belief that if I'm not asking for if I'm not soliciting that attention, get the fuck away from me. Yeah. You know, like, you'll know if I'm engaging with you, you'll know. I'm very forthcoming about my feelings. I'm like, get the fuck away from me. I have no interest in speaking to you. I'm not looking to be your friend. I'm not looking to talk to you. The end. Goodbye. Also, and that's how I've always kind of been. Read the fucking room. Exactly. So if we're all engaging, laughing, this dude comes up and he's obviously inebriated, and, you know, because we're at a bar, and he walks up and he goes, "Mind if I sit down?" First of all, and this was right next to me. I do. And I was like, this is right next to me. And I looked over, and my partner, we're both very, some would call us just man-hating lesbians. And for the most part, it's true. But we both looked at him like, no. I was like, no. But the two friends that I was with, my ex-friends now, they're like, yeah, have a seat. The fuck? I was like, hey. That's weird, because I'm not consenting to this, and you're having him sit right next to me. I don't feel safe about this. Also, we live in the desert, a place where people go missing all the time. Yeah. Like, we live by a national park that people literally get disappeared in all the time. Heavily. And there have been numerous serial killers out here. And I'm not saying that this guy was necessarily a serial killer, but hey, you never know, you know? I keep that in the back of my mind. It's always in my back pocket. So he sits down. The first thing, you never know. I mean, it could be anybody. It literally could be anybody. Yeah. And so he sits down. The first thing the asshole says is, "I just got out of prison." Now, I want to premise this by saying I am fully abolished the prison system, because it's quite literally just modern day slavery. Oh yeah. So with that disclaimer in mind, like, yes. And so exactly. So for me, in that moment, I viewed him saying that as a type of, I want to say, threat. Like, he was using that and wielding that as a way to be like, so are you scared? First of all, no. First of all, I carry around they call me 9 knives. I have 9 knives on me. They don't call me that, but someone should start.
Period. I was like, I'm gonna call you 9 knives now.
9 knives.
9
I carry
knives
like
the
several.
Baba Dyke, you know? Like,
Yeah, watch out. 9 knives the Baba Dyke sounds like a children's story that we need to write.
oh my God. Don't
one of those
tempt,
edgy ones.
I have a production and publishing company, so don't tempt me.
All I'm saying is, that's all I'm saying.
Oh gosh.
Just put a pin in it. Put a pin in it because we'll go back.
Copyright. Wait, how do I? Yeah, the copyright. Yeah.
No one can see this, but we are doing the copyright symbol.
Yes. If you're watching on YouTube, you see it. If not, just know that we're holding up copyright symbols with our hands. This has been
Absolutely
righted. Yeah. Cool.
Copywritten. In the books, don't recite the old text to me, which I was there when they were written. My other favorite thing, the Lion, the Witch, and the wardrobe. But anyway, so oh good Lord. But yeah, no, so this guy, he's like, I was in prison, and I was just immediately like, he's trying to do this. He called us a table of pretty girls, which in that in itself is already red flag. Yeah. So finally, I'm sitting there and I'm not going to say anything because, like, you know what? If y'all want to talk to him, by all means, I'm uncomfortable. He starts touching my arm. And I was, he could tell that I was not about his presence. And most men, when they can tell a woman wants them to go away, naturally, instead of taking the hint, they pretend they don't see the hint and they start pushing even further with their creepy little agenda.
Trying to make it seem like you're the one assuming that what they're like. It doesn't matter what your intentions are here. You came to my space and you put your hand on my body without me asking.
Yeah.
And you didn't ask either. So like, get by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm very menacing when I want to be. Like, I can be extremely menacing. I use it to my advantage all the time. And this guy touches me and I'm just sitting there and I look at his hand and I look back up at him and I look back down at his hand and I said, "Don't touch me." And it stopped the whole conversation he thought he was having with everyone. And he gets real quiet and he takes his hand off. And I was like, so I'm just looking at him. So he's yattering on and on. And I'm just looking at my friends who I thought were fucking idiots. Now, mind you, I said to my one friend, I'm like, I can tell you're like, I knew she was uncomfortable, but she did that thing that unfortunately, and I am not shaming women who for a survival reason will entertain this behavior. Yeah. Because they don't want to get into a discrepancy. They do not want to get hurt. And I completely understand that.
Absolutely.
But I will never not sit there and be the voice of like, I would prefer this didn't happen, you know? And if anything happens, I'll do my best to, that's just how I've always been. And there have been times where I pick my battles because I feel an energy that I don't want to engage with. And I'll just sit there and take it because yes, not everything can be confrontational because that results in people getting hurt.
Yeah. Also, it may not be fruitful for the in that moment in time. It's like, there's no fruitfulness, there's no progressiveness or productiveness to it. So it's like everyone will be safer if I just stay silent right now. Like
exactly. Yeah. And I mean, that night I chose that was the battle to fight because he's talking. Finally, yeah. And finally, there's a lull in his talking because, of course, he's overwhelming the conversation. No one's really talking back at him. And one of the girls that told him to sit down was off talking. And this is another reason I was getting uncomfortable because in the climate, our current political climate, say that this person discovered that we were with a trans man, that then it is inherently dangerous for our trans friend who's sitting there, who I could tell felt somewhat uncomfortable and had gotten up and walked away from the table. So I was like, all right, obviously I'm not alone. My partner and I are not alone and feeling extremely uncomfortable about the situation. We need to kind of nip it in the butt. So the other friend's not paying attention to this guy anymore. I'm like, if no one's paying attention to this guy, this is my time to shine. And I looked at him and I was like, hey, beat it. That's all I said. I said, beat it. And he looks at me, he goes, excuse me. I said, you heard what I said. Beat it. And he gets up and he's like, he was like, I'm allowed to sit here. And then suddenly everybody piped in and they were like, no, you're not allowed. Like, because that was the trigger word for a lot of people is like, you feel entitled to us now. Like, we already knew that, but.
But now you feel bold enough to say it. Like,
yeah. And he stood there for a while and I was like, I had my knives like ready at the ready.
Bitch, I have 9 knives, Baba Dyke. Okay. Like,
yeah. Like, do you know who you're fucking with? Like, I'm the scariest thing in the desert. I can assure you.
Like me and the Wendigos, we hang out. Like me and the Wendigos, we party all the time. Like,
yeah, none of you will scare me half as much as my own father has. Like, so you've got another thing coming. Like, guaranteed.
Obviously, it's trauma.
Obviously it's trauma. Like, good luck. Like, I'm not afraid of you. Any cryptid either. Like, they don't hold a candle to Talat. That's my father's name. But anyway, so anyway, by the way, my father's like 6'6", like 6'7".
gosh.
He's a giant
Ah,
vampire Lestat of a man. Like he looks,
I love
for
that.
the longest time he looked like vampire Lestat, which is ironic considering my Dracula thing, but he was very horrifying. And it makes a lot of sense for me now. I will just add that little blip in there for anybody who cares to know. You're learning a lot about me.
I love it. I love it.
But this guy, he was not having it. He's kind of, floated around for a while, and he finally fucked off. And then afterwards, the two broads that, like, I was like, yo, girlies, that told him to sit down. One of them was like, yeah, I was a little freaked out. And the other one was like, why would you do that? You made so much drama. I was like, I did. Yeah, I was like, I did? No, I did not. He did, and you did by allowing him to sit down. And I'm not going to actually hold it against you. But if I want someone to not be sitting next to me, I'm going to do something about it. And I'm not going to leave where I'm sitting.
I'm allowed to have autonomy over my body and my space.
Bless,
so exactly. I'm allowed to say, like, I don't want someone sitting next to me. So yeah.
Absolutely. I was appalled at that response. I was like, wow, okay, so this friendship's gonna come to a screeching halt, I'm sure. It was just asinine. I was like, okay, well, all right, next time when we're out, I'll just, good luck to you. I won't be a part of this. I won't be privy to this. And I will certainly not entertain a drunk man who came over with the premise of, hi, pretty girls, I just got out of jail. Like, please, no, thank you.
No, none of that. I think that just goes to show that real life is a horror movie too. So
yes, it is.
Real life is a horror genre. So, I think that's why we relate to it so much and love it so much.
Yeah. I mean, when you grow up as we'll say for all encompassing a queer person in America, especially within our age range, like when I was younger, it was not cool or trending to say, that you're a lesbian. It could get you killed, you know, and there are places that can still happen. I'm not negating that isn't the case, but nowadays I'm proud to see that it's becoming such a thing where everybody can be open. Yes, like I love it. I bask in it every day. It makes me so happy that people are comfortable to come out. It also makes me happy that the people that don't and are not ready to come out they should not be forced to come out. Like it's becoming a lot more open and under like a safe space, like literally a safe space within our community and within our generations, and it's important.
I feel like we could talk about this for hours, and I want to do a part 2.
Honestly, no, I know, because I clocked the time as well, no pun intended, but I clocked the time and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a while, but I mean, I've enjoyed it, and I think it's a good conversation.
Me too.
So I think we should definitely like next season, and we're also Enhance has got a lot of, which I'm not going to announce them here just because we need to announce. Like I have to get with Gabby and we have to do a full announcement. But we have a lot of really cool projects in the pipeline when it comes to like podcasts and stuff like that. Okay. We're going to do some mini series next year. We're going to do some one-offs. So nice. I'm definitely going to like all the people that have participated in season 1 and 2 of Enhance podcast. They're going to get like priority into getting to participate in these other things too, because it's like I want the reoccurring personalities. I want like when one person gets to come on, like they're part of the Enhance family, and so it's like so I definitely think you'll be like really I'll kind of a little teaser to one of them. We're doing a mini series called Enhance's we're workshopping the name, but I think we're going to land on Enhance's Strangers Meet. And it's going to be where, like, I'm not going to be hosting it. Gabby's not going to be hosting it. It actually is going to be CJ, another member of Enhance, that will be kind of emceeing the whole thing. But basically, we have people that will be, like, complete strangers meeting to discuss a topic that we know they both are passionate about or both have experiences with. So, like, I love that. And so we're still workshopping everything. And, like, this month is our last month of season 2. So we'll be, like, doing official announcements and information on it. But this episode, we're recording it on the 5th. It will actually come out this Saturday, which will be the 7th. Yeah. So
nice. I was going to say, I didn't know I tagged you on Instagram. I tagged Enhance because I posted something. I said, I'm recording this today and I'm really excited about it. And I'll post again saying when it'll come out. And then once you have it, I'll post it on my Instagram. Mind you, it's a new Instagram, so it's still working its way up if it ever does. But to my 30-something followers, a gift, you
Yeah,
know?
I love that. Look, you're gonna explode. Like, I already know it, and you're gonna be like a famous actress. You're gonna be a famous writer, a famous director. Like, we're gonna work together. We're gonna write
No,
Nine Knives, the Babadook. We're gonna write that.
Nine Knives. Oh, yes. Okay.
And
Yeah,
then or Baba
absolutely.
Dyke, yeah, the Baba Dyke, and then we're gonna do. I want to like we just need to write some stuff together. I think this would be really
Yeah,
cool.
we didn't even get to touch on, and for the next one, I'll save it because in regards to horror, we didn't even get to touch on the religious aspect of a lot of like Catholicism and
Yes,
Lutheranism and growing up in that. And I have the imagery behind it, and I could go on, but we
oh
will.
my gosh, yes, I have so many too. Like, because I grew up Pentecostal and they believe in like demon
Woo!
possession and like speaking in tongues and like yeah, I
I
have a
was
lot.
gonna Hey, ooh, yeah.
Mhm.
I was
Yeah,
Lutheran, the watered down version of like Catholicism, like the very watered down Martin Luther King narcissist, like kind of,
yeah,
I'm a special little man with some documents I'm gonna nail onto a door. I'm special
yeah.
type. Like,
What was his last name? King?
Martin Luther King, yeah, I believe so. And
I
that used to
didn't.
confuse the fuck out of me. I was like, yo, this guy, like,
I
I had
always
a
thought it
different
was like
idea.
Martin Luther. Wow, that's even.
Is it King? Is it King? Wait,
I
let
don't know.
me look.
Let's
I
Google
don't want to sound like a I don't look, I've forgotten a lot about this white people lore. Like behind Martin Luther.
Yeah,
Martin
I'm about to look. Martin Luther, Lutheranism, as written. Martin Luther.
No, it's just Martin Luther. It's just Martin
Oh,
Luther.
okay. I was about to say, because see, whenever I was in when I very first started learning about Martin Luther because of the whole like rise of Protestantism and stuff like that in school and everything.
Yeah.
When I started learning
Mhm.
about it, I like was I would always say Martin Luther King because I was like one of them's Martin Luther King, one of them's Martin Luther King Jr. and I always got like corrected, which I'm glad I did. But so when you said
Yeah.
it just then, I was like, was I right? Was I right?
Was I have to know
To me?
all this time. It's been 84 years.
Yeah,
All
but
this
yeah.
time. Yeah, I
So
mean, I could go on and on. I used
yeah.
to literally, just a little side note, I used to pass out in the church. That was like my fainting spot. No one knew why. It also happened, speaking of Martin Luther, when they used to have us memorize the catechism and recite it in class, I would
Uh-huh.
faint. And it wasn't because of performing, because we would go to other places and perform and I would, for choir or whatever, no fainting. But in the church,
How
always.
interesting. Okay.
And so
Yeah, we definitely. I want to do some like spiritual mini series too. Like Hughes had also mentioned doing something like that. So I think we're gonna do something like that next year, like do a mini series about spirituality and religion and stuff. And we definitely need to because I have so many things I could talk about. If you listen to last year's horror hump day, I talked about like me living in a haunted house and like how like
ooh, no, I haven't.
yeah. So
What
it's
is that?
last year.
Horror Hump Day?
Yeah, so we have a Weird Wednesday, which is our bonus episode that we do once a month during our seasonal month, so between July to
Okay.
October. And so the one in October is known as our Horror Hump Day because Weird Wednesday is just our bonus episode to talk about whatever we want to. We just bring a topic that we want to discuss and like teach people about. So we've done like chakras, we've done tarot, we've done like all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah, but for Horror Hump Day, which is the one in October, we do scary. So like I came with like my real experience of living in a horror, like a haunted house. So
Oh, I love that. I want to listen. I'm gonna go back and I could probably put it on while I'm doing my delivery drives.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
It was a lot. So stay tuned. But definitely message me and let me know when you go to listen to it. But if
Oh yeah, absolutely.
but yeah, well, thank you so much for being part of this today and being
Thank
here.
you.
I know
This was phenomenal. I had a great time.
me
Honestly.
too. And I knew like you and I were just gonna like talk. You know what I'm saying? Like I knew it would be a good conversation, and I'm excited to have more too.
Absolutely.
So definitely I think this might be one of my favorite episodes I've recorded.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Yes.
awesome.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Well, thank you so much again. And do you want to tell everybody where they can follow you and where they can find you?
You could find me on Instagram. It's at m.radiana. So just Tatiana, but with rat at the front. That used to be my nickname. Was Rat. Do not ask questions. Like,
hey, Rat Girl is in right now. So
Rat. I mean, I'm owning it now, but before I was a little peeved, but you gotta just own it. You gotta learn to own it. But then you could also find me on TikTok, which is actually where I spend if I engage on content platforms, it's definitely TikTok. I do really love TikTok. It's a good therapeutic.
yeah.
I know a lot of people might disagree with this, but I find a lot of peace and catharsis there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Especially creating something.
You're hilarious. So I love watching your TikToks. So
thank you. But
yeah.
I appreciate it. No, I appreciate you saying that. Cause like, I mean, I love to do it. And I don't typically do it. I'll like I said, it's like a catharsis, but I like when people like resonate and I like having that connection. Cause to me it is important, especially for my writing.
Mhm.
and even acting, because it
Yeah.
is just a mirror. And so yeah, but you can find me at the Baba Dyke. That is TheBabaDyke, right?
Love-
A
Yeah.
girl can spell. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you guys for so much for tuning back into Enhance, and we will see you next time. Cool. I'm gonna stop the recording, but you don't have to hang up just yet. But I have another call I
Okay.
have to hop on in like 15 minutes, and I'm